An entitled customer literally fakes getting injured at our restaurant just to use that as a distraction to dine and dash, putting me in a situation where I'm worried that I might lose my job over this because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I tried doubling for the first time in the 6 months at my Korean barbecue that I work at last night, and I regret it so bad that I need to rant. I got assigned a 10-top reservation at 7 o'clock. It was pretty cool, like everything's set up right on time, and at this point the party is like 20 minutes late, but it's an unusually slow Saturday, and I didn't have any of the reservations for that table, so we just kind of let it slide. Now, these people are enjoying themselves. I cook a little bit for the kids, but for the large part, they are a relatively needy, loud, rude, but very sufficient table. At the very beginning, we established that they have 2 8-year-old kids and a 7-year-old. There were lots of seasonal drinks, and automatic gratuity was looking good. I get ready to give them their checks, and they want it split 5 ways. Now, I don't really remember what kid was what age, so I asked them, but that's when they realized that our prices for kids are separated from 4 to 7 years old and 8 to 12 years old. So then all of a sudden, all of the kids were 7. I tried explaining that I had already rung up their ages in hours ago, but they're simply not having it. So I grit my teeth and I get my manager to help me out. And this is like the 5th red flag at this point, but I'm tired and I don't want to cross them. And I honestly just want to get them out of there. Now, they were in no rush with putting their cards in the checkbook, and I had just been sat again. So I decided to just process payments for whoever had put their card in, greet my table, and then come back to them. Except only one of our point of sale systems accepts cash, so I had to rush there first for one of our payments. When I circled back to them again, I just needed one last check from this lady who had only had herself, her boyfriend, and 6 seasonal shots that she ordered for the entire party. She then directs me to her boyfriend, who is sitting at the front lobby by himself, basically guarding the checkbook that his girlfriend said she was going to pay for. This guy actually says that his chair gave out on him and he suffered a really bad hip injury, and he's currently waiting on the manager, who at this point is rolling back the cameras to check what happened. Now, at this point, I'm stressed out of my mind, but I still had multiple tables waiting to put in new orders, so as soon as the manager comes back to talk to him, I rush over to my other customers just to check in on them. The rest of the party already left at this point, so it was literally just him. Anyways, I check up on my tables and I come back, and the manager informs me that he just straight up left without paying, and we have no clue if anyone tried to stop him or not. It doesn't matter because all of the stress catches up to me, and I start bawling for the next hour. I'm literally cleaning my grill sobbing because I was so tired, and I was full of guilt over having my first ever dine and dash, not knowing if I would get punished for this or not. While I'm cleaning, the manager comes around to me and shows me the camera recording of the chair breaking incident. And yeah, this idiot was purposefully leaning all the way back, you know, his full grown man weight angled against the poor chair, causing it to give out, and he caught himself mid-air like he didn't even fall. And then he proceeded to lie flat down on the floor to pretend that he had fallen, which was when another server noticed him and helped him up. And it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? Now, I'm well aware that days like these happen in the serving industry, but I clocked out with $170 for a 14-hour shift, which really sucks considering I'm getting over a sickness, and honestly, it just doesn't seem fair. Okay, imagine being so much of a coward that you don't want to pay for your meal, so you fake a hip injury just to get out of it. Like, holy crap. This guy's got to be like the smallest, most fragile little puppy dog in the world. Like, holy crap, what an idiot. Like, not only were these people completely out of line by being rude and loud and just overly needy the entire time, but this last guy, the last guy out of this stupid group you're trying to get out of there, he seriously dines and then dashes out of there. Like, holy crap, I hate thieves. I hate people who steal like that. So in my opinion, I don't think the original posters should be hard on themselves. Like, this stuff happens and it's definitely not your fault. This group was trouble from like the second they walked in. And I think if anything, just chalk this up as good experience in the future of how to handle this kind of scenario. Because even someone who's super experienced would have trouble with this, and it's honestly not your fault. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled customer is regularly coming in and giving me a hard time about our products, as he seems to think that I'm supposed to have all of our products memorized, despite the fact that I literally work the front desk and I don't control the inventory. But today was especially bad, as this guy got an attitude with me that I simply could not handle anymore. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, I work at a large thrift store, which is probably the largest by volume in our area. Our inventory covers probably 4,000 to 5,000 square feet in total. I schedule pickups for new items through our system and man the front desk 95% of the time. Now, I gotta be honest, there is a regular who comes in who absolutely hates me. Specifically, he hates that I don't have like an encyclopedia knowledge of our inventory. He's 6'4" and always wearing weird, shapeless jackets. And I will confess that my own dislike for him is what's driving me to tell you that he also reeks of something that is either body odor or cat urine. For about 20 minutes every day, he will walk around the shop floor in silence, looking at everything the floor workers have set out. And then he will approach me empty-handed to ask how much an item cost. He's not describing these items to me in any kind of detail for the record. He just asked me how much the red chair or the shoes will cost. And then I have to ask him to clarify what he's talking about, which then makes him extremely irritated. One time, he actually brought the item he wanted priced out to the front, except only it was still in a cardboard box that he would not open. I asked him several times if he could just like, I don't know, let me see it or let me know what he was holding, but he just rolled his eyes and said, "I did say what it was. I asked how much it was." I had to call my supervisor over from his office to tell the man that yes, he did have to show me what was in the cardboard box, as I'm not yet capable of seeing through solid objects yet. Well, anyways, today he came in again and did his usual routine, but he seemed more sullen than usual, if that was even possible. He eventually and finally came to the front and asked me how much the clear Tupperware was. Now, I assume that if you're reading this, you know that most Tupperware is clear. I then asked him which ones, and I got up to go find what he was talking about. Well, this was apparently Joe Catpee's last straw. He scoffed and pointed at me, and then told me to never ask which ones. I then just told him that I did not in fact know which ones he was talking about, that I'm not in charge of inventory at the store. But he kept repeating, "Which ones? You really asked me which ones?" And he was doing this at increasing volume until my manager had to get involved and ask him to either bring the Tupperware up to the front and pay whatever they cost or get out. Well, he did in fact pay for like the $2 piece of large Tupperware containers, and it's here that my manager then took the guy outside and straight up told him that he was to bring anything he wanted to ask me about or negotiate the price for up to the front desk from now on. Well, Mr. Catpee clearly didn't like this rule. He has said some things indicating he might never come back, and honestly, I really hope that's true. Dude, I would hate having a customer like this every single day that I have to deal with, but most especially if they smell bad. Like, dude, I already don't like you, and now I've got to smell you all the time. Like, holy crap. Take a shower or wash your pants. Like, what's going on right now? He's probably worn the same pants for the past like 9 months, and that's exactly why he smells like garbage. So yes, for the poor unfortunate soul of the original poster, I hope this guy never comes back. He's an absolute jerk, he's obnoxious, and he makes your life a living nightmare, and I would never want to deal with that. My adventures in Facebook Marketplace have led me to believe that people are super entitled and don't know what they want, as I literally tried to give away an old IKEA desk for free, only to then be met with people who are literally so entitled they don't even know what they want to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is a pretty weird situation. I'm upgrading my house office setup, and my old desk is perfectly functional, just not what I really need anymore. So I listed it on Facebook Marketplace as free, pickup only, available on the weekends. Now, I thought it would be gone in an hour. But the first message I get is someone saying, "Hey, can you hold it for 2 weeks? I get paid on the 15th. But it's like, dude, it's free. There's no payment involved. I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'd like it gone sooner than later. They then responded by saying, okay, well, let me know if no one takes it. And then they never messaged me again, despite it still being listed a week later. The second person asked if I could disassemble it first because they have a small car. And it's like, fine, I said I could do that. But then they asked if I could also bring it down to the street because they have a bad back. And just for reference, I live on the 3rd floor. I then said that I wasn't able to do that, and they said to me, okay, so how are we supposed to get it down? And it's like, we just met. This is a free desk. What are we talking about? Then a third person confirmed that they would pick it up for Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning. And guess what? They didn't show up. They didn't message me, and I tried to follow up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they said, oh, sorry, something came up. Can we do it next Saturday? But I told them, I'm sorry, but I'd already relisted it. But finally, I gave it to the fourth person, who just simply said to me, can I come by tomorrow at 10? Does that work? And it's like, yeah, that works. They did come at 10, they brought a friend, they carried it down themselves, they said thank you, and it was finally done. And honestly, I don't know what it is about free stuff on Marketplace that suddenly makes people think they're the one doing you a favor. It's a free desk. I'm simply trying to not throw it in the dumpster and not have to do ring around the rosy with a bunch of idiots who don't know what they want. Yeah, that sounds really annoying. I've never done anything on Facebook Marketplace before personally, but that does sound like a nightmare. I would hate to deal with people like that, especially when it's free, dude. Like, just come and get it. The fact that anybody would expect extra service involved for a free item is just really weird and just unacceptable. My mom showed up unannounced to my apartment and expected me to drop what I was doing just to have lunch with her. But after I said no, she literally guilt-tripped me harder than I've ever experienced. And now I don't know how to make this right, and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all started. Okay, so I'm 26 years old and I moved out 3 years ago. I live about 25 minutes away from my parents, and my mom and I have a decent relationship overall, but she has never fully adjusted to the fact that I have my own life and my own schedule. She literally doesn't call before coming over. She just shows up. The first time I brought this up, she said, "You're my daughter. I shouldn't have to make an appointment to see you." And that was kind of the end of that conversation. Well, last Saturday, I had plans with friends starting at noon. People that I had not seen in a while. We'd booked a restaurant weeks in advance and all this other stuff. But at 11:15 in the morning, my mom knocked on my door with a bag of groceries, saying that she wanted to cook lunch together. I told her I was actually heading out in about 30 minutes and I had plans, but she literally came in anyways and started unpacking the groceries on my counter and said to me, "Oh, I won't take long. I just thought it would be nice." I said, "Mom, I genuinely can't today. I have a reservation and people waiting on me." She then stopped unpacking and looked at me like I'd said something hurtful. She then said to me, "I drove all the way over here." And I said, "Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry, but I didn't know you were coming," which is kind of the point. She then repacked her bag very slowly and quietly, which is her way of making sure I feel bad about it. And on her way out, she said, "I just miss you. I didn't think that was a crime." I then texted her later that evening, and she took 6 hours to respond with, "Oh, I'm doing fine." But it's not fine, and we both know it. I don't know how to make her understand that showing up unannounced and then being hurt when I have a life is not fair to me, and I'm genuinely tired of feeling guilty for existing on my own terms. It's honestly exhausting, and I just don't know what to do. Yeah, I would be very pissed off if I had family members acting like this. Like, are you kidding me? You literally have a reservation and your mom's like, "Let's cook lunch together." No, I'm not gonna call ahead of time to see if you're available. I'm just gonna show up. And when you say no, I'm gonna guilt trip you. Like, dude, I don't need that kind of energy. That is obnoxious. And you know what? Maybe just doing this over and over again will eventually make her realize that, yeah, maybe I should call ahead of time. Because sure, of course you would love to have lunch with your mom. You'd love to like be able to cook something and have a good time. Like, I know I would have a good time doing that. But it's like, bro, yeah, we kind of need to make sure we're on the same page because you've got stuff going on. You have your own life. You literally live in your own place. So in my opinion, I would not take the bait. I would not feel guilty about any of this. And I would seriously just be like, no, I'm not going to be tricked like this. Whatever. This is obnoxious and I'm not putting up with this. Because seriously, this is dumb in my opinion and I can't stand when people act like this. Did I overreact by leaving a family dinner? All because my father made some horrible comments towards me. Because right now, I kind of feel guilty about it, and I honestly just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 16-year-old female, and today I attended a family dinner with my older brother who's 18 and my dad. My parents divorced about a year ago, and my dad finally moved out 5 months ago. I see him on the weekends, and we've created a special tradition. We go on a family dinner at our local pizza restaurant once a month. Now, today's dinner was normal at first, the usual small talk and conversations about what we've been up to during the week. That is, until my dad started telling us about some of his coworkers' personal affairs. 2 of his colleagues had recently divorced because their wives cheated on them. And I didn't really mind it at first, like it is pretty normal for my dad to tell us about his coworkers' personal lives, even if I find it a bit inappropriate sometimes. The real problem started when he said, "I don't know what's wrong with women these days. All they do is mess around with other men, instead of, staying at home with their children." And when he said this, I was speechless, especially since I'm a woman. This is also not the first time my dad's made these kind of comments before, and they really hurt me. He is an incredibly misogynistic man. In the past, he didn't even let my mom go out with her friends. He was extremely possessive, controlling, and was even against her having a career, because he firmly believes women should only be housewives. And that, in fact, is the main reason why my mom divorced him. In this case, my brother immediately stepped in and told him that his comment was completely uncalled for. He told him he shouldn't generalize and say half the world's population is a certain way. My dad then got agitated immediately and said we just don't get it because we're kids, because apparently he's actually lived in this world and seen it all, and he knows what women are really like. And just as a side note, I'm pretty sure he believes my mom cheated as well, which actually did not happen. Regardless, I felt offended and incredibly upset. So after supporting my brother's arguments with a few comments, I was too fed up with the situation and I just yelled out, "Shut up! You don't know anything about real women." He then got even more agitated and said, "You know what? When you're 18, I'll have a real talk
talk with you and make you realize who women really are. Or maybe it runs in your blood and you'll find out before because you'll get a boyfriend and you'll end up being a cheater as well. Or better yet, you'll get a girlfriend and she'll cheat on you.
And honestly, that was seriously the last straw. I grabbed my phone and I left, and I didn't even care about the food at all. He tried to run after me, but I yelled again, and I said he was being a jerk, and I told him to leave me alone. I ran home in the dark, and no, I frankly just didn't even care. But now it's been hours, and the guilt's creeping up on me, and I've been feeling like I overreacted. Everyone at the restaurant looked at me, and my brother's been telling me that I did overreact. He said I acted like a dramatic child, and that even if our dad's comments were morally wrong, I should apologize for leaving because he was buying us dinner, even though he was having financial struggles because of the divorce. But you know what? I feel guilty after all. My father's not the affectionate type, and he shows love with acts of service, and I'm really scared I've ruined the tradition for us because of my reaction. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, first off, your brother's wrong, and no, you did not overreact. Your dad has no right to make some kind of sweeping argument against women like that. That's so insane. And for him to look at you and be like, wow, you're probably gonna be a cheater too. Just wait, I can't wait for you to learn this lesson. It's like, what are you talking about? If anything, this kind of shows that he was probably a terrible dad and a terrible husband to your mom, because this is a seriously toxic mindset, and there's just no good excuse for it. You didn't do anything wrong. You just said, hey dad, could you stop being, misogynistic? Could you stop hating women for no reason? What's going on? This doesn't make any sense to me. I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would probably stop having any kind of dinners with him until he apologized, because this is unacceptable. He attacked you out of nowhere all because you said, hey, please stop saying that, which is completely reasonable, by the way. That's a reasonable request. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. You're not overreacting, you're not the jerk, and your father is completely out of line here. And in my opinion, he's the one who owes you an apology as soon as possible. My boyfriend straight up lied to me about running a marathon, as I have proof and hard evidence that he did not complete the full 26 miles. And now I'm kind of wondering what his problem is and why he would lie like this, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I'm not entirely sure if I'm overreacting about this, but a few weeks ago, my boyfriend allegedly completed a full marathon in a very impressive time. Ever since we met 6 months ago, we have discussed this regularly. I've watched him train, I've helped him fundraise and supported him emotionally up until the big day, and on the day of, I was unable to watch him in person due to reasons out of my control. So instead, I asked him for his bib number so I would be able to track him online, and my parents went to support him in person. On the day, I logged on to track him to see how he was getting on about an hour into the race, only to discover that his name had not been registered. Initially, I thought this was because he was potentially registered under the name of the charity that he was running for, and instead, I decided to track him via his Find My iPhone. As he went through, I continued to send screenshots to my parents of his location so they could know roughly when to expect him. I continued to check every half hour, and eventually I noticed that about 2/3 of the way into the route, he had stopped at the headquarters of the charity that he was running for, and his location remained there for 45 minutes. He then sent me a photo of him with a medal, claiming that he had just completed the marathon. I then called my parents to say that he had finished and asked them if they had seen him cross the finish line, where they were standing, and when I asked them, they said no. At the same time, I messaged my boyfriend to ask if he had seen them, and he claimed that it had been so busy that he hadn't noticed, and to just tell my mom and dad to go home. So at this stage, I started to wonder if maybe he had pulled out of the marathon halfway through and didn't want to talk about it just yet. After some further investigation, I now know that he did not run the full marathon. Instead, he ran with a 5-person relay group who each did a fifth of the route. I've not confronted him about this yet, but I will say I have been really distressed about how blatant of a lie this is. He continues to claim that he completed the full 26 some odd miles, and I keep thinking back to how he lied to my parents and my friends' faces, most of whom donated towards his running a marathon. Also, this isn't the first time he has lied to me. Typically, they've been small white lies about insignificant things, but this feels huge. It's been weeks and I still haven't yet brought up the fact that I know that he lied, mainly because I know that he will most likely just double down. I also can't help but wonder, if he's lying about this, then what else is he lying about? I feel utterly betrayed and I just don't know how to deal with this situation. Is it worth continuing a relationship with someone who can clearly lie so easily? Because right now I don't know what to do. Yeah, this is one of those things that you don't want to lie about, I gotta be honest. Anything sporting related or something where it can definitely be measured, dude, you want to tell the truth. I don't know if he knows history or not, but people who lie about running marathons or races, it just honestly never ends well for them. And sure, he's not trying to be like, oh yeah, I won the Boston Marathon or the New York Marathon or whatever, where someone jumps in towards the tail end of the race face and acts like they're super tired and like, oh yeah, I won and I did the whole thing. But even still, like, this is not a good look, and he definitely would never want this to get out. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would approach him about it. I would be like, look, I know the truth. I've got screenshots. I got proof of all of this. You didn't run the full 26 miles. You only ran 1/5 of it. Like, be honest. I know that you're lying. And I think if you go to him with like hard evidence and proof that, yeah, he's full of crap, then maybe he might like admit to it. Or he might get pissed off and like lash out, which in my opinion is a huge red flag. Despite the fact that him lying about a marathon is already like a giant red flag, by the way. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to date a liar. That just doesn't sound appealing at all. So if this were me, I would address this sooner than later because this seems incredibly weird and honestly just something that you really shouldn't lie about. My psycho ex-mother-in-law literally breaks into my house just to see my child, claiming that I can't keep my daughter away from her and that she deserves the right to see her. And despite the fact that I called the police and I'm now starting the process of getting a restraining order, my entire family is against me on this, saying that I'm at fault for this entire situation, despite the fact that my ex-mother-in-law is literally crazy. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit, so if you would like to submit your own stories, check the link in the description. We would love to hear what you have to say. Let's get started. Okay, so I've been sitting with this for a few days now, and I still feel sick over it. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I have a 2-year-old daughter who we will call Lily, who I had with my ex-husband. We've been divorced for a little over a year now, and we separated shortly after Lily was born. Our relationship was rocky even before I got pregnant, and having a baby just made all our differences impossible to ignore. He was emotionally unavailable and completely disengaged during my pregnancy. Once Lily was born, he got even worse. He barely helped, he wasn't present, and within a few months, he had moved out. After the divorce, we went through a custody case. Due to a combination of his lack of involvement, instability, and some substance issues, which I just won't get into, the court awarded me with full custody. He has no visitation rights, and while he is supposed to pay for child support, he is months behind. Now, this is where the real issue comes into play. My ex's mother, you know, Lily's paternal grandmother. She has always been overbearing, but since the divorce, especially since Lily started walking and talking, as well as becoming this amazing little person, my ex-mother-in-law has gone completely off the rails. In the early months after Lily was born, I allowed a few short, supervised visits with her. I didn't want to be cruel because I knew she was excited to be a grandmother and was probably heartbroken that her son wasn't involved. But each time she visited, she overstepped in a huge way. She would criticize my parenting constantly, try to feed Lily foods that I had said no to, call her by a nickname I never approved of, and worst of all, she would refer to Lily as my baby in front of me. She even once told Lily, "Oh, don't worry. Grandma's gonna take care of you when mommy gets tired of you." I brushed it off at the time, but looking back, that comment makes my skin crawl. Eventually, I set boundaries. I told her visits would be rare and always supervised, and that if she couldn't respect that, then she would not be able to see Lily at all. Well, that didn't go over well. She started blowing up my phone with guilt trips, dramatic messages, saying stuff like, "Oh, you're ripping our family apart," as well as her saying, "Lily deserves her real family too." So eventually, I just blocked her number, and that's when things get really weird. She started showing up places I was with Lily. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but then it kept happening over and over again. I mentioned on Instagram, which is a private account, but apparently someone leaked information to her, that we were going to a local farmer's market, and somehow she just so happened to bump into us. Then I saw her walking behind us at a Target 20 minutes from her home, and she tried to act like it was a coincidence, but I could see her peeking over the aisles, watching what I put in my cart and trying to accidentally talk to Lily when I turned my back. So on that day, I told her flat out to leave us alone. I blocked her from everywhere. I told my ex what was happening, and he just kind of brushed it off, saying that she just misses Lily, but he hasn't seen his daughter in over a year, so I really don't care about his opinion on the matter. But it's right about here that things get completely unhinged. 2 weeks ago, I was home with Lily in the early evening, and I just finished giving her a bath and was getting her ready for bed. She was in her little bunny pajamas, and we were brushing teeth and listening to one of her favorite songs, and that's when I heard a thump downstairs. At first, I thought maybe a package had fallen or my cat knocked something over, but then I heard footsteps. Real human deliberate footsteps. At that point, I froze. I grabbed Lily and I went into my bedroom. I locked the door and I called 911. Well, it turns out it was my ex-mother-in-law. She had broken into my house using a spare key that I didn't even realize she had seen me hide over a year ago when she visited. And yes, for the record, I've since moved the key and changed all the locks, obviously. She told the police that she wanted to see Lily and that she was worried about her well-being. She she claimed that I was alienating her from the family and that I was acting unstable. In her twisted logic, I guess she thought she was going to walk in, grab Lily, and I guess leave with her or something like that. Now, even worse is when I call the cops, she also called them, trying to make it seem like I was the unfit one. When the officers arrived, I explained the situation, I showed them the text messages, the call logs, and the previous police report I had made from her stalking behavior. And you know what? They were 100% on my side. They told her she was trespassing, they gave her a formal warning, and they helped me begin filing for a restraining order. But now her family is blowing up my email. I mean, I had to make a new one just because of this. They're also sending letters to my house and even left a note on my car calling me cruel and selfish for severing family ties. They claim that I'm punishing Lily by keeping her away from her grandmother and that I'm making things harder than they need to be. But from my point of view, I've tried to set boundaries again and again. And when those weren't respected, I protected my daughter. She literally broke into my house. That's not love, that's obsession. That's dangerous. But still, a tiny part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Maybe I should have tried harder to keep some kind of limited relationship for Lily's sake, but every time I think of that, I remember her lurking at the store, or picking up Lily without my permission, or trying to literally take her while I was in the house. So am I at fault in this situation, or is there something else that I could have done to prevent this? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Holy crap, no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your mother-in-law is insane. She tried to break into your house just to see Lily. This is not rational behavior, dude. This is some crazy psycho stuff. Because it really does beg the question, what was she planning when she got into your house? Like, how is anybody on this lady's side right now? You can't break into someone's house and be like, you're the unhinged one. You're not taking care of the baby. You're severing the family. It's like, dude, you're in my house when you shouldn't be. What on earth are you on about? Like, that's some crazy behavior that would almost make me want to move away, dude. There's no way I would put up with that. At the very least, put up cameras around your house because this lady might try that again. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here. You didn't do anything wrong. These people are insane for trying to follow along with this. Because in no universe are you ever the villain here, as your ex-mother-in-law's behavior is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My coworker called me rude for asking to pick up my check, all during the lunch hour of the person who's in charge of handing them out. And now I'm wondering if I might be the jerk because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I work at a restaurant and I'm not going to go into any details about the establishment itself. I just started a week ago and I've worked 4 shifts so far. I came in the morning to pick up my check and I was told the lady who hands them out was in a meeting. I was then told to come back at about 12 o'clock and this is all the information I was given. So I go home to play some video games and I show back up at about 12:30. There was a shift lead working in the front of house area who was told I was there to pick up my check. Well, she then started speaking about me at a high volume, which by the way, she absolutely had to have known that I could hear her. She then said, "That is so rude. She's on her lunch break. He should not be coming up here to pick up his check. I didn't even see him work here last week. Why is he even here? Coming in while she's on lunch." She then realized I was looking at her and listening, so she smiled and waved, and I just smiled and waved in return. So seriously, am I the jerk here? I'm not familiar with this line of work. I've been there for literally 4 shifts, and I don't feel like I've overstepped at all. And to add to that, I would have happily waited for her to get off of her lunch. I was not in any sort of rush. Maybe they meant closer to 1 o'clock, but after 12 was definitely a miscommunication if I had to say so. What should I do? Okay, literally it's payday. What is wrong with these people? You haven't done anything wrong. Like, these people are so dumb. Like, is it really that big of a deal to be like, hey, can you grab that check that should have been printed already? And then literally just give it to the original poster? Like, seriously? That, or maybe, I don't know, communicate this better? Like, this guy literally just started working here. They don't know how this place works. Like, come on, man. So the fact that your coworker wants to sit there and talk trash about you, like, that is so low of them. They really should be better than that, but honestly, I'm not surprised that they're not. So no, at the end of the day, I say you're not the jerk because this is literally normal behavior. My mom is constantly trying to drag me into her debt that she owes by practically begging me to take out loans on her behalf under my name. And at this point, I feel so worn down that I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, my mom is extremely financially irresponsible. She will buy things that she doesn't even need. She goes out partying every weekend, and instead of budgeting and saving money, she just goes on expensive shopping trips. At one point, she used to be spending more money than she was making every month and kept taking loans when she was younger, and now it's ballooned into an even bigger debt. Recently, about a year ago, she and my ex-stepdad went through a very nasty divorce, meaning that she ended up being the sole provider for everything. She kept saying that everything will be okay, yet then she started to ask me to loan her money so that she could pay for her debts, which of course I did, especially after she threatened to basically cut off the internet and many other things things, even including giving my pets away just to pay it off. I feel like she was guilt-tripping me by consistently asking me for money, even though I kept refusing, and she still somehow got through because I felt obligated to. Anyways, she still owes me about $300 from the beginning of the year, when she paid everything else on time, which is weird since she kept promising that she would pay it all back, and yet when I mention it now, she just ignores it. She tried to get my consent to get a loan under my name, lying that it was just an online store, which is the worst lie ever because when I googled it, I saw it was a loan company, yet she still insisted that it wasn't. And now, last night, she told me her bank account is most likely going to be closed because she forgot to pay one of her debts on a payment plan, and yet again asked me for help and again consent for a loan, to which I declined and said that I basically give her all my money from disability each month just so we can live in our apartment worry-free, and yet I feel like it's simply not enough to her and she just wants more. She kept pushing it today to get me to consent to it, to which I said that I don't want a loan to my name and for you to forget to pay for it, and then later I'm going to be in trouble because of it, to which she said, yes, I get it, but I really feel like she doesn't get it at all and will continue to try and get my consent for it after no one wants to help her out. Now, unfortunately, I can't move for another few years, and I've been planning for years to just move across the globe far away from her and just go no contact with her. But in the meantime, what can I realistically do since no one else will take me in, and I feel like she'll just continue taking money from me and guilt-tripping me? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I think I completely understand where you're coming from, where you're like, look, I want to move across the country away from her. But I think if I was in your shoes, I would be focusing on getting out of there as soon as possible. The original poster clarified that yes, they are a legal adult, so finding somewhere else to live, even if you have a bunch of roommates, would probably be in your best interest. Like, I can imagine moving across the country being extremely expensive, so maybe moving somewhere local to get away from her first might be a good move. Because what you're describing sounds like a nightmare, and I would never want to deal with that. Am I overreacting for blocking my coworker after he made me incredibly uncomfortable at work? Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I work at a marketing agency, and there's this one guy who's 32 years old who we will call Tom, who sits in the cubicle next to mine. For the past few weeks, he's been acting really strange around me and making me super uncomfortable. Now, things started off really small. He would always offer to walk me to my car after work, even though I never asked, and when I said no thanks, he would say things like, a pretty girl like you shouldn't be walking alone. I tried to be polite and just said I was fine, but he just kept on insisting. Then he started bringing me coffee every morning without me asking. When I told him he didn't need to do that, he said to me, oh, I just want to take care of you. And that made me feel really weird, but I didn't want to cause drama at work. The worst part was last week. I was working late and most people had gone home. Tom came over to my desk and started rubbing my shoulders without asking. I immediately moved away and I told him not to touch me, and he said, sorry, I was just trying to help you relax. I was so uncomfortable that I literally packed up and left right away. After that, I started avoiding him as much as possible. I would take different routes to avoid his desk and eat lunch at different times. But he started texting me on my work phone asking why I was being so distant and if he did something wrong. Yesterday, he cornered me in the break room and said that we needed to talk. He told me that he could tell I was upset and that he just wanted to be friends. When I said his behavior made me uncomfortable, he got defensive and said he was just being nice and that I was overreacting. I then told him that I needed space and to please just leave me alone. He said fine, but seemed really angry about it. Later that day, he sent me a long text message saying that he was hurt that I would think badly of him and that he never meant to make me uncomfortable. I ended up blocking his number because I was tired of dealing with it, and now some of my coworkers are saying that I was too harsh and that he's a nice guy who just doesn't understand boundaries. They think I should have talked to him more before cutting him off, but I tried to set boundaries and he kept pushing them. The shoulder rubbing thing really crossed a line for me, and I shouldn't have to explain to a grown man that you don't touch people without permission. So did I overreact by blocking him instead of trying to work it out? Should I have given him more chances to change his behavior? What should I do? No, there's no way this is ever appropriate. This guy walked up to you and started rubbing your shoulders because you seemed like you were tense. It's like, dude, this is not your girlfriend. This is your coworker. Not to mention a coworker who is 8 years younger than you. This 32-year-old man knows better than to do that. And anyone trying to be like, oh, Tom doesn't understand. He's really a nice guy. You gotta give him a chance. Those people are idiots. There's no way I would ever deal with them ever again. So no, you're not overreacting by blocking this guy, and if anything, you really should go to like human resources. You should tell them that this guy touched you at work and he's following you around and literally bothering you outside of work. Like basically he's stalking you. There's just no other way of putting it. Because this kind of crap is not something you should ever have to deal with. Am I the jerk for not including my boyfriend in my graduation celebration and somehow making him feel left out, despite the fact that our relationship has been rocky at best? Here's what's going on? I'm a 19-year-old female, and I just graduated from community college, and I decided to decorate my cap with a quote that represented everything I've been through, like working, school, and other personal stuff. My boyfriend and I have had an on and off relationship, and last year we broke up briefly because he got emotionally close to another girl, but now we're back together. Now, after graduation, he got distant and finally told me that he felt hurt. He said it seemed like I was acting single and didn't give him credit for helping me through the hard times. He brought up how people at my job probably don't even know I'm in a relationship, and that my family still thinks I live with my mom. And for the record, he didn't want to be around them anyway, so I just didn't mention much. He said my graduation cap made it feel like I was trying to prove I did everything alone, but I explained that while I appreciate him, I really did go through a lot of this by myself, especially during our rough patch when he was texting other girls and I was trying to hold it all together. Now, I did apologize, but I'm still kind of hurt that he made my celebration about him. It wasn't meant to exclude him. It was about surviving and finally being proud of myself. So am I the jerk for not including my boyfriend in something that felt very personal to me? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what's going on. Okay, first off, no, you're definitely not the jerk, but also, why on earth are you wasting your time with this guy? I get that you really like him, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't keep getting back together with him, but it sounds like he's incredibly selfish and he doesn't sound like a good boyfriend at all. Like, this guy would rather run off and go with another girl than stick it out with you. And that for me is like a giant red flag. Not to mention the fact that he's trying to, like, I don't know, take credit for all of your hard work, as if your college experience is something he can just kind of whittle down and be like, oh, I helped with that. I'm the reason that happened. Thank you very much. Like, no, dude, you broke up with her several times and chased other ladies. Meanwhile, the original poster's working hard and keeping it together like they said. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, you can do a lot better than this guy, because from the sounds of it, he sounds like a complete loser. An entitled male Karen holds up an entire pharmacy drive-thru line, all because he was asked to wait for a medication that wasn't ready right away. And I'm honestly still baffled by this interaction because this guy was super entitled. Here's what happened. So this is probably one of the most baffling things I've ever witnessed in my life. Last week, I went to the pharmacy to pick up some medication, and I was really irritated after the drive-thru line hadn't moved for over 15 minutes. I also couldn't get out because there was a barrier around the corner where I was stuck at, and the cars behind me are in line, so I'm kind of just sitting there doing nothing. Eventually, the person in front of me drove around the person in front of them to leave the line, allowing me space to do the same. When I rounded the corner, I see why it was taking so long. There was a truck stopped at the window with a couple of cop cars next to it and some cops talking to the driver. I then went inside the pharmacy and I overheard what was going on, since there was a cop inside as well, talking to one of the pharmacists. This angry-looking dude in his 60s was apparently told that one of his prescriptions would be ready in about 30 minutes, and he basically just said, well then I'll wait here until you get it to me. And man, the cop talking to him outside looked completely exhausted and done with this. That man sat there for over half an hour throwing a fit. They told him he needs to come around and pick it up inside or come back through the drive-thru later, but he literally refused. I don't know what they said to him that got him to finally leave, but I imagine they told him he was going to get arrested for disturbing the peace or get trespassed by the business. He drove away after I was finally able to grab my meds. I had a lot of fun talking smack about him with a nice lady in line ahead of me, as well as with a tech who was checking me out. And honestly, the lack of self-awareness in this situation was absolutely crazy to me. Dude, imagine being so entitled that you hold up an entire drive-thru all because you're not getting what you want right away. It's like, dude, these people are already busy enough. They don't have time to wait for your weird tantrum just to like serve you specifically. If the pharmacy says it's going to be about 30 minutes, then guess what? That's when you should come back. You don't sit there in the drive-thru and stop everybody else from doing stuff. Like, that is super uncalled for, and hopefully he got in some kind of trouble because that is unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not staying the full week on my family's vacation simply because we want to split that time with my family as well? Because right now my fiance's family is giving us a hard time, and at this point we don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 30-year-old female and I'm engaged to my fiance, who we will call John. Now, his family spends a lot of time together. Holidays, weekends, and frequent get-togethers with all the siblings and grandkids. John's dad retired this past May, and we already had a retirement party for him. Now, his parents have planned a family vacation in November to celebrate his retirement again. They rented a large house out of state and invited everyone, siblings, spouses, grandkids, etc., all for a full week, from Saturday to Saturday. John and I were clear from the beginning that we probably wouldn't be staying the entire time. I've always expressed that Thanksgiving is an important holiday for me to spend with my own family, and John told his parents early on that he wasn't sure he'd stay the full week because it was a long trip. Well, we decided we would attend the trip from Saturday through Wednesday, then we would head home so we can spend Thanksgiving with my family. Well, since then, there's been some subtle pushback. His parents have said things like, it's just one Thanksgiving, or they've asked if John could stay even if I left. They've also said
said that this is the first time the whole family is doing a trip like this in years, and this might not happen ever again. Now, I understand they're excited about the trip and we're not trying to skip it. We are planning to be there for 5 full days, but I don't think it's fair to expect every adult to give up a full week of their own time and holiday plans, especially when we made our intentions clear up front. Now, when it comes to the subtle pushback I'm talking about, it was subtle as in they are communicating with John. His mom blew up when they asked about booking flights, and he said, yep, but our plan is to come Saturday to Wednesday and to get back to my fiance's family for Thanksgiving since it's important to her. His mom went off to say, oh, it's just one. She can't miss just one Thanksgiving. I mean, can't you just stay? And then he left that conversation upset, and we got into an argument about holding the boundary because he's a peacekeeper and tends to people please. Then a couple weeks later, they asked him to come for dinner, and both his mom and dad pressed more, saying, oh, it's just one. Can't you just stay? You need to advocate for yourself, John. And you know what? He was great about all of this. He held the boundary and told them that this was a we decision and that this is what we are comfortable with. He told them he doesn't want to be away from his fiance on the holiday. So truly, are we the jerks for not staying the full week, even though his family is really getting on our case about it? Because right now we're honestly incredibly frustrated. Okay, first of all, I want to say that you have a good fiance because this guy absolutely stood up for you. And this is how it should be. This is a decision the both of you made and not something that you're only advocating for. And the fact that your extended family's trying to be like, wow, you need to advocate for yourself. Can't you stay and she can leave? Like, that is so toxic, it's honestly frustrating. Because they're ignoring the fact that you're gonna be there for 5 days, people. It's not like you're not showing up at all. You're just leaving early for other plans, dude. Like, come on. It's so obnoxious that they're trying to be like, oh, this is unacceptable. Like, seriously? You know what's really unacceptable? You freaking out over something so stupid. So no, you guys are definitely not the jerk because this behavior is super obnoxious. My brother quit his job overnight without any kind of backup plan in the slightest. And now he expects my mom to support him while he refuses to get a job. And at this point, I'm so burnt out that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my brother is 32 years old. He had a dead-end night shift job, which I know was impacting his mental health, but this man just quit without any plans and now fully expects my mother to support him and give him money. He also lives with her and I live in a different country. Now, he doesn't want to look for another job for 6 months so that he can focus on his health. And this is because he has ballooned to over 400 pounds. Naturally, he expects my mother to plan out all his healthy meals for him because he can't cook and doesn't even go along with her to get groceries. My mother is currently in a financial black hole and is terrible with money. She's also possibly in the middle of an elaborate scam, which is an entirely different story altogether. Now, all of this is something my brother knows, and yet, even still, he quit his job. I helped them both out financially for years, but stopped last year because I was getting horrifically burnt out doing 3 part-time jobs while also working on my PhD. My mother kept lying to me about where the money I sent was going and constantly kept asking for more. So I made the hardest decision of my life and I stopped financially supporting them because my lifestyle had become unsustainable. I still buy my mother's medication directly through the pharmacy, but my brother clearly resents me cutting them off. And so does my mother, for the record, but she shows it less and doesn't take it out on me, at least. I had an argument with my brother when I called him yesterday, and I begged him to please find some work so that he can help out our mother just a little bit. He then got angry and said, well, now I'm not gonna look for a job for 1 year. The more you badger me, the more I'll delay. What are you gonna do about it? And then, to top it all off, he said to me, I know you're so worried about us. Why don't you take another trip to Japan, huh? Now, for reference, I saved for this trip for 5 years, since like 2020, and finally I was able to go this year. So clearly he resents that too. Honestly, this comment made me cry and I hung up soon afterwards. I'm honestly so tired and I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, in my opinion, giving more money is not going to solve anything, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would cut them off and say, I'm sorry, but I can't keep doing this. I would then absolutely explain to my mom and be like, look, this guy's playing all of us. He's refusing to get a job. Like, this is not working for anybody. Like, I'm really surprised he even still lives in that house. I know if I tried to pull that with my mom, she would kick me out immediately. Like, that's never gonna happen. So I completely understand where you're coming from, and I don't blame you for the decision you made, because this kind of behavior is completely toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amIthejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for sitting in first class while my mom sat in economy? Because she's saying that I should have switched my seats with her so that she could sit up there and I sit in the back. And now that the entire family is turned against me and is saying I'm the jerk for not giving up my seat, I'm honestly starting to question everything and I now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old male and I just got back from a really long work trip. I've been traveling a lot lately
lonely, barely sleeping, and overall, I've just been completely drained. So for once, I said screw it and I just used my points to upgrade to first class. And I've never flown first class before. Now, my mom happened to be flying the same route because we were both heading to a family thing. She booked her ticket separate from mine and she was in just basic economy. Now, at the time, I didn't think it was a big deal. And at the gate, I told her, hey, just so you know, I'll see you when we land. I'm sitting up front. And when I said that, she looked at me like I had taken out her dog. She asked if I was serious and then said, you're really gonna let your own mother sit in the back while you relax in first class? And I thought she was kidding, but apparently she wasn't. She told me I was being selfish, ungrateful, and disrespectful, that she raised me better than this. And I said, Mom, I love you, but I paid for the seat with my own money and I'm exhausted. I just want one flight where I'm not sandwiched between two strangers. But at this point, she is now very pissed off. She told my aunt, who told my cousins, and now half the family is calling me a jerk for not giving her my seat. And honestly, I don't think I did anything wrong, but now I feel really weird about it. So yeah, am I the jerk for not switching? Because right now things are incredibly messy. No, you're not the jerk. This is so stupid. These people really expect you to give up that seat that you paid for? Like really? That is so dumb. If she wanted a first class seat, then she should have, I don't know, bought one herself. And why should you give it up? Like seriously, it's not like she was gonna be sitting next to you anyways. She is literally sitting in economy and she bought her ticket separate from you. Like dude, what is she complaining about? And to any family members who are trying to be like, wow, you're a jerk for not giving up your seat. Like this is so stupid. Like if they really feel that way, then upgrade her seats when she flies back home. Like at that point, just put your money where your mouth is. Because your mom clearly only cared about getting that first class seat, and she did not care about your comfort in the slightest. An entitled Karen falsely claims that I hit her car with my shopping cart, which conveniently enough allowed me the opportunity to put her in her place in a way that I'm sure she will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was emptying my grocery cart into my car when out of nowhere an entitled Karen approaches. I could tell she wanted to say something to me, and I assumed I was in her way, so I apologized and I moved aside to give her more room. As she approached, she said out loud, "Is your shopping cart hitting my car? Did you just hit my car?" And for reference, it was a new Dodge Charger. So I responded by saying, "No, of course not. I'm not even touching it." But instead of listening to me, she doubled down and accused me even further. So I said to her, "I would never hit someone else's car." So she responded back by saying, "Well, it really looked like you did." So I just said, "Okay," and I continued loading my car with my groceries. Now, I audibly chuckled a bit over how she acted while I was loading. No introduction, no apology, just a bunch of accusations. And this is likely because my car is noticeably old, and I'm wearing my caregiver clothing, which are just junk clothes. I put my cart back, and as I'm walking back to my car, I said to her in my sweetest caregiver voice that she should have a great day, and I hope she enjoys her wonderful, expensive Charger. I then got into my car, and as I pulled out, I looked over to her one more time, and that's where I noticed her dog was in the car as she was about to open her car door. The car was not running, and there were no windows cracked, and it was 90 degrees outside. So in my sweetest caregiver voice again, I said softly to her, "And you left your dog in your car on a hot day. Shame on you." I then ignored her after that, and I left, but I could hear her being all upset and yelling something at me, which honestly was incredibly satisfying, especially after the way she treated me. Oh wow, this Karen's just that kind of person. She's not only a terrible person for trying to accuse you of things that didn't happen, but she also left her dog in the car while it was not running. Like, dude, this lady's an idiot. She could have killed her dog. Like, what a moron. So good for you for making her feel probably incredibly stupid, because from the sounds of it, she absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for not paying for my roommate's groceries after she literally spent all of her food money on clothing and shoes? Because right now she's saying that I'm discriminating against her all because I have more money and that I could easily help her out and that this is what friends do, leaving me wondering if I really am the jerk in this scenario. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I have been living together for 8 months. We split rent and utilities, but buy our own food and personal stuff. Last week, my roommate, who we will call Anna, came home with a bunch of new clothes and shoes. She was showing them off and mentioned she got everything on sale, but still spent like $300. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time, but then yesterday, she asked if she could borrow some of my food because she was running low. I said sure, thinking that she meant like a few things, but when I got home from work, she had eaten almost all of my leftovers and made dinner using a bunch of my ingredients. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't have money for groceries this week because she spent too much on clothing. She even said that she would pay me back when she gets paid next Friday. Now, I was annoyed, but figured it was just a one-time thing. But then today, she asked if I could spot her for groceries this week. She said she would pay me back, but she really needs food and I have plenty of money according to her. Well, I told her I wasn't comfortable with that and that she needed to figure out her own budget. She then got really defensive and said I was being mean and that friends help each other out. But the thing is, I have a better job because I didn't drop out of college like she did, and I can afford things because
because I budget, and I don't spend my food money on unnecessary things. She's been really cold to me ever since then, and even said I was being classist for not helping her when she's struggling. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly annoyed. Okay, your friend is a complete idiot. This roommate literally doesn't know what she's talking about. It's not even funny. Is she really trying to be the victim here? It's like, I'm sorry, but the original poster didn't spend all their money on clothing. You did. Like, how is this the original poster's fault in the slightest? This all comes down to Anna not knowing how to handle her money and somehow still blaming you for her poor decisions. Like, that's just stupid, bro. Like, what are you talking about right now? So no, of course you're not the jerk, because all these problems that Anna's facing are literally things that she did to herself.
Did I overreact for telling my fiance that I want a prenup agreement after he made a joke about putting everything in his mom's name if we ever divorce? Because right now everything is kind of falling apart and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so this just happened and I'm still kind of stunned about it. My fiance and I have been together for 5 years and engaged for 7 months. We were discussing finances and casually talking about wedding stuff when he joked with me and said, well, if we ever split, I'll just put everything in my mom's name. That way I can't lose what's not mine, right? Now I laughed awkwardly and I said that wasn't funny, and he just doubled down and said, no, but seriously, it's kind of smart. My mom's always had my back. I then told him that's actually really shady and it makes me feel like he's already planning an escape route. He then said I was being dramatic and said to me, well, if you don't have anything to hide, a prenup should be no big deal. So I said to him, cool, let's get one. He's now sulking and saying I clearly don't trust him and that I'm ruining the romantic part of our engagement. But it's like, didn't he bring it up first with that joke? His mom texted me today saying that I'm already acting like we're divorcing before the wedding. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because this seems like a really messy situation. Dude, this guy is one big walking red flag. Like, are you kidding me right now? Holy crap. If I was in your shoes, there's no way I would take this as some kind of like casual joke. This guy probably really means this and he's testing the waters. In fact, he's probably already done this and he's waiting to see what your reaction is. Like, why on earth would he instigate a prenuptial agreement or even signing everything away to his mom before you guys get married? That is so stupid. Like, that's obviously what he's planning on doing. So no, you didn't overreact, and honestly, this is incredibly sketchy. Am I the jerk for bringing my dead father up in front of my mother's new husband? Because apparently I just found out that he's jealous of my dad. And now my mom and my aunt are turning on me and freaking out about me making any kind of comments like this. And at this point, I'm honestly incredibly frustrated. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm so upset, I just don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. I'm a 28-year-old female, and my father passed away of cancer back in 2018 when I was 20 years old. Last weekend, my mother remarried. I get along well enough with her new husband. He is a cool guy in general, and he treats me and my mother well. He also has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, as he's been married and divorced with his ex. They have a 50-50 custody split of their daughter. During the wedding on Saturday, everyone had fun. I even shed some tears of joy for my mom. But Sunday, something shifted. My cousin asked if I'm going to call my mom's new husband dad, and I obviously said no. I already had a dad, and I was a fully grown woman by the time he came into my mother's life. After that comment, my mother and her sister pulled me aside and started yelling at me to stop bringing up my father in front of her new husband, because apparently he's jealous of a dead man. His ex is alive and they see each other every weekend to pass off the kid, but he's jealous of a dead man. I basically told them to get off of me, that I did not do it deliberately, but my father had been my father for 20 years, and naturally I bring him up sometimes in passing, especially to my younger cousin who was only 7 years old when my dad passed and barely remembers him. My aunt then went into this huge tangent. She said to me, your dad was important to me, but it's not important to anybody else anymore. You need to let go and move on instead of talking about him because everyone else is. Well, when she said that in turn absolutely made me cry, and I didn't speak to either of them for the rest of the day. So seriously, am I the jerk for bringing my dad up sometimes? Is it reasonable for my mother's husband to be jealous of a literal corpse? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. This is really insensitive behavior. You have every right to talk about your dad. Like, are these people being serious right now? Like, your mom and aunt are out of line. And for this guy to be jealous of your dad, like, seriously, dude, what are you talking about? He is literally no longer alive, and you're sitting there trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm jealous of that. I'm jealous that he was around when I wasn't. Like, this is all some crazy behavior and like absolutely uncalled for. Because obviously, no, you are not in the wrong for mentioning your father. You have every right to talk about him as much as possible, and just because your family's trying to forget him and never talk about him again, doesn't mean that you have to do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not lending my car to a friend who had totaled theirs while they were drunk driving? Because right now my friends are saying that I'm a bad person for not helping them out, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my friend, who we will call Mike, has been friends with me ever since we were in college. 2 weeks ago he got arrested for drunk driving and he totaled his car. Thankfully nobody got hurt, but but his license is suspended, and his car is completely destroyed. But ever since then, he's been asking to borrow my car just for emergencies and important stuff. At first, I felt bad for him because losing your car really sucks, and I was considering it at first. But then I found out more details about what happened. He wasn't just a little bit over the limit, he was completely wasted. We're talking like twice the legal limit. He hit a parked car and then drove into a fence before the police found him. And he's lucky that someone didn't die. When I told him I wasn't comfortable lending him my car, he got really upset. He said he learned his lesson and would never drink and drive ever again. He also pointed out that I let him borrow it before when his car was in the shop last year. But this really feels different to me. Before, his car was just having mechanical problems. Now, I know he's made some really dangerous decisions behind the wheel, but what if he decides to drive after having just one drink or something like that? When it comes to my friends, they are kind of split on this. Some think that I should help him out since he's going through a rough time, and others think I'm being smart by protecting myself and my property. Mike keeps bringing it up and saying that I'm being a bad friend. He says he needs a car to get to work and that I should trust him. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to give him my car? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this as plainly as possible. Any of your friends who are saying, oh yeah, you should lend him your car, they are not your friends, and in fact, they are complete idiots. This guy had his license suspended. We're not just talking like, oh yeah, he got in an accident. He got his license suspended for drunk driving. And if he got caught driving again on a suspended license in your car, you can bet that car is gonna get impounded and you're probably gonna get in trouble in some kind of way. Like if I was in your shoes, I would tell this guy absolutely not. And then I would point to the friends and be like, oh yeah, they'll give you their car. They disagree with me, go talk to them. Like no way are you gonna do that with my property, dude. Absolutely not. Because this really is a no-brainer and anyone telling you otherwise is completely out of their mind. An entitled delivery driver calls my workplace to try and complain about my driving, despite the fact that he's the one that cut me off, forcing me to go around him on the road. But instead of ignoring this kind of comment, I decided to get some petty revenge by calling up his workplace and complaining to his store owner, resulting in this guy most likely getting fired again. Here's what happened. So this happened not too long ago. I happened to be on my way to work one morning, and I was cut off by a delivery driver for an automotive parts store in the United States. And this is honestly no big deal for me. It's kind of a hard corner to see traffic coming, so I totally get it. However, I did go around them in a center lane. I know, not exactly the correct thing to do, but I also didn't want to slam on my brakes, and these delivery drivers normally drive slow. So I went around and it was in a completely safe manner. No other traffic around us. I continued on my way to work and didn't think much of it. I mean, it does happen. And I don't ever call and complain about it because, again, it was a blind corner. Even in my bright red car, it can be hard to see. Well, fast forward to when I'm at work and my phone rings. I answer it and it's the company of the car that cut me off. He asked me who drives the red car and I told him it was me. He thought he held the moral high ground and was going to try and tell me how wrong I was and how I need to be a better driver. And you know, while also taking none of the blame, because nowadays it's always someone else's fault, right? So now at this point, I'm incredibly ticked off, and I then decide to get some petty revenge. I call the corporate number and I complain about being cut off and the driver calling my own workplace to complain to me. Within a few minutes, the store owner of the franchise called to discuss what had happened. I then let him know the story, and I even reiterated that I was never going to call and complain in the first place about being cut off until I got a phone call from this jerk himself. Well, the owner was pretty angry that his employee did that, because according to them, this employee was rehired in the first place, which I'm positive must have led to a very interesting conversation. Oh man, imagine being so stupid that you call somebody up just to then shoot yourself in the foot like, dude, what are you doing? You're the one that cut this guy off, and then you had the audacity to call them up and be like, oh, you need to be a better driver. It's like, dude, do you want to get fired again? Like, what's going on right now? Getting rehired to a place that clearly this guy got fired from is not an easy task in and of itself. So for him to go out of his way and be like, you're the one that cut me off, you need to be a better driver. Like that kind of behavior after the way he was acting on the road is completely delusional and so far out of touch. Because what is going on right now? That's so dumb. Why would you do that to your career? So yeah, this guy's a complete moron, and any trouble he runs into honestly is going to be well deserved. My boyfriend said that it is not his responsibility to defend me from his family, who is absolutely treating me like garbage. Because right now I'm dealing with so much mistreatment from his family that he literally refuses to acknowledge, leaving me in a place that honestly is making me question this entire relationship. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off that I've mentioned to my boyfriend of almost 4 years that I sometimes feel uncomfortable because his mother and sister aren't always kind to me. Sometimes their disrespect is obvious and sometimes it's subtle. His mother minimizes the way she sometimes treats me, and his sister tried to lie to me when I once mentioned something that she did. I also asked him to stand up up for me more, and sometimes he does, but he recently told me that it's not his job. He thinks that I should stand up for myself when his family disrespects me. Now, I disagreed with it, and I think that it is his responsibility as it's his family. I mean, I would defend him if my family was disrespecting him. Also, I feel like he puts his family above me, and I find it hard to believe that he doesn't notice when they disrespect me. Somehow, he always seems to notice when men look at me in public, but apparently he doesn't notice all the times his mother and sister are disrespectful towards me specifically. He talks a lot about how unity matters to him and wants me to have a relationship with his family, and I respect that, but I don't feel comfortable around people who clearly just don't want me to be there. He seems to live in a world where his family is always kind to everyone, which just isn't true. Him defending his family by excusing their behavior and saying how much they did for me, like inviting me on vacation for example, really discourages me from telling him how I feel. I want to give him the unity that he wants, but I also don't want to deal with the disrespect, especially while feeling like an outsider. He is usually a very logical and skeptical person, but quickly believes his family's lies. And it's disappointing because he is usually not like that. I feel like I can't have a good relationship with people who can't acknowledge their mean behavior, and I don't know what to do. At this point, I'm wondering if this relationship is even worth it, because I seriously am at such a breaking point. Okay, I've got to be honest with you, I think your boyfriend is a toxic piece of garbage. Not only is this absolutely his responsibility, but the fact that he's not doing anything about it and choosing to just like turn a blind eye to it, like that in my opinion is absurd and completely uncalled for. He has no right to treat you that way. And yes, this is him actively treating you like garbage, because you've got it 100% right. If this was your family, you absolutely would step in and be like, guys, you gotta be nicer to him. Like that really is a reasonable thing to do. I know I would do that. If I had a partner who was like, yeah, your family's super rude, I would go to my family and be like, look, if you ever want to see my partner ever again, you're gonna back off and leave them alone. Because what's happening right now is just dismissive and so uncalled for. And just for the record, this guy is not logical. What he really is just lazy. He's lazy because he doesn't want to do anything about the fact that you're being mistreated, which again is completely unacceptable. Because instead, from the sounds of it, he wants you to just submit to whatever's going on and not do anything about it. He wants you to stay quiet and put up with this crap when in reality, you absolutely should not have to do that. So yes, this is your boyfriend's responsibility to defend you against his family, and the fact that he's not willing to do that is a major red flag. And I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be trusting my instincts here, and I would be like, okay, I need to find a better relationship, because what's going on with my boyfriend is completely uncalled for. My entitled family demands that I allow my sister to move into my house after she apparently fell on hard times. And despite the fact that I said no and that they are awful people, they simply refuse to listen to my reasoning, forcing me to get the police involved just to get them away from my home. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm currently living with my husband in a 2-floor house in the suburbs that is big enough for the both of us and also to host lots of guests if needed. 7 years ago when I was 25, I lost my one and only soulmate, my best friend. She was my world and my rock, and everything made sense around her. I could talk about her all day, but that would take too long to write down, and I would probably break down in tears anyways. After she passed away due to a horrible freak accident, I fell into a depression that led me to drinking away my feelings. And this completely altered my life for the worse. I lost my apartment, my friends, my family, and my life. I had absolutely no one, and my parents were so ashamed of me that they refused to let me live with them. And my sister, well, she claimed that she was living in an apartment that was way too small and that she just couldn't house me. So I ended up being homeless and desperate for a long time. 6 years later and a million rehabilitation meetings later, and I am now fully sober with a kid on the way. I never kept contact with my family after what happened, and instead I focused on myself and I met the love of my life. Well, fast forward to a month ago, and my sister found my new number through an old friend and contacted me asking if she could stay at my house for a while. Apparently she had lost her job and had been going through a tough divorce and lost her house as well. Well, obviously I refused, reminding her of how she treated me in the past. Well, last week my parents and my sister somehow found my address and they came to my house demanding to let my sister stay here. My sister defended her past actions by revealing that she found out she was pregnant after my best friend passed away, but apparently never wanted to tell me due to the fact that I was grieving. She also didn't want me to stay at her place because she was scared that I would somehow push her into also being an alcoholic and somehow harm her kid. She then said that her situation is different now because she already has kids that her ex-husband has custody of and that she wants to get her life together and she needs my help. Well, after a long discussion, things were getting heated and I had to eventually call the police. I'm now thinking of filing a restraining order against them, but my husband is telling me to just let go of my rage and help my family out. I honestly don't know what to do, and I already feel super stressed out while also being pregnant, and I have hormones jumping out of my ears. So that may also be the reason for me being extra angry. I need someone's opinion on this situation who doesn't know me, and I'm hoping for some kind of advice because right now I really don't know what to do. Dude, this is some crazy behavior. You mean to tell me that these people rejected you at your lowest point, but somehow they're gonna show up and be like,
You need to let your sister in. She needs to live with you right now. This is what family does.
and it's like, yeah, this is what family does. You guys literally turned your back on me, and now suddenly I'm supposed to be the better person? Like, what are we talking about here? If the sister really needs a place to stay, then stay with your parents. Why are you coming to my doorstep? And in my opinion, it's kind of alarming that your husband is not on your side with this one, because this is just some stupid behavior. He does know that these people abandoned you when you had nothing, right? Like, they literally allowed you to sink to your lowest point in your life, and they still want to try and be like, oh, it's your turn to help us out. But it's like, wait a second, when did you ever help me out? So honestly, your whole family is super entitled, and the fact that they're trying to throw this on your shoulders is completely toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for snapping at my roommate for leaving her dog home when she literally sleeps at her boyfriend's house all the time? Because right now I'm kind of getting sick of having to take care of this dog, and at this point I'm honestly super frustrated. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I live with my best friend who we will call Molly for the sake of the story. I work from home and Molly works in an office. Molly has a dog by the name of Gabby, and Molly is not the best dog mom if I'm being completely honest. She walks her maybe 1 to 2 times a day, and the walks are anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes long. That's it. That's all the stimulation this poor dog gets. Now, I secretly walk her extra times because I feel bad, but I don't want my friend to know about that. Anyways, Gabby is historically terrified of thunderstorms. She will whine, she will pace the house, and she will be very loud, scratching at the walls and doors and all this other stuff. Molly's been dating a guy for about 8 months, and it's getting pretty serious. She stays at his house anywhere between 2 to 4 nights a week, so Molly will come home from work, walk Gabby for a few minutes, and then immediately leave again for the night. She literally never brings Gabby to the boyfriend's house. Now, we live in a rainforest climate, and it's been raining here every single day and night for 2 weeks and counting now. So when Molly goes to her boyfriend's house for the night, she fully knows how Gabby is going to act, but she leaves her here anyways for me to inevitably deal with. I finally confronted my friend about this, and her response was to lock her in my bathroom. She'll be fine. And it's like, what are you talking about? I'm not locking this dog anywhere, and I think this whole thing is really messed up in general. I finally snapped at Molly about this, and we haven't spoken in a few days. We avoid each other like the plague, and Molly is too selfish to apologize. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Should I have just kept my mouth shut? Or was I right to say something and be justified to be fed up and pissed off? What should I do? Okay, you had every right to say something here. You are definitely not the jerk. Molly's a terrible dog owner, like seriously. She's literally leaving this dog for you and just not even like considering the fact that, hey, maybe you don't want to deal with this. Which basically means that Gabby is slowly becoming your dog instead of Molly's. And if she really cared about this dog, she would take the dog with her to her boyfriend's house. She basically lives there anyways, like what's going on right now? So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very pissed off. Because there is no way I should ever be expected to have any kind of like responsibility over this dumb dog. And I'm right there with the original poster. I'm never gonna lock a dog in a bathroom just because my roommate is lazy and doesn't want to take care of their animal. That's just incredibly cruel and something that you should absolutely not have to deal with. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my sister with her baby every single day after work? Literally because I just don't have time to make that kind of commitment. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female and I work full-time every single day except for Sundays. My sister recently had a baby who is now 5 months old. I love my nephews and I visit them whenever I can after work, but it's usually a long trip and I get home at around 9 o'clock when I go there. I live with my mom and she doesn't like me taking showers after 9 o'clock because of the noise. Even though I pay the water and electric bills, I try to avoid fights and respect that. My sister just returned from maternity leave and asked me to come help with the baby every day after work so that she can shower and get things done. I told her that it's difficult for me because of how late I get home and the problems it causes at home. I also mentioned that I'm usually exhausted after work and that going there daily would be way too much. Well, she said that it was fine, but then got really upset and started yelling at me. She brought up personal things, saying that I can't keep a job and making me feel like I'm unreliable. Now, I was just trying to explain my situation, but she seemed to take it as some kind of attack. And now I don't feel comfortable going to her house anymore, even though I care about her and the baby. She has a husband and in-laws who could help her out as well, so I don't feel like it's fair for her to expect this much from me. So seriously, am I the jerk right now? Because honestly, I'm not sure how to take this. No, this is really weird behavior in my opinion. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your sister's overwhelmed and she's taking this out on you, which is absolutely not fair. Because think about it for a second. She has a husband and all these other people who absolutely can help help out. So if anyone should be stepping in to like take care of the baby, it should be your husband, not you. Like, come on, man. You should not be expected to come over every single day to take care of her child. That is not how this is going to work. And also, it doesn't mean you're selfish or uncaring. It means you have your own life and your life doesn't revolve around her baby. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here because what your sister's asking of you is kind of overboard. Am I the jerk for calling my stepdad out for his awful behavior towards me? Because my mom is literally doing nothing about this and instead trying to say that I'm the one being rude, despite the fact that this guy is constantly messing with me. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I'm an 18-year-old female and I've never gotten along with my stepdad. We've barely gotten along since my biological dad passed away, and my mom has been married to this guy since 2020. Recently, my stepdad has been causing more issues with me. I asked him to shut the door because I was holding 2 dogs. I had my puppy between my legs, and I was holding my mom's 150-pound St. Bernard with his collar so they wouldn't run outside. But he just looked at me and rudely said, "Calm down," when I literally asked him nicely to shut the door. Then the next day, which was yesterday, I came home with ice cream. Now this is ice cream I had bought myself as a treat to reward myself because I've been cutting wheat out of my diet. Well, as soon as I walked into the kitchen, he expected me to share my ice cream. He said to me, "You brought home goodies and you won't even share?" Meanwhile, he had his own ice cream in the freezer, along with many desserts on the counter. Also, I spent my own money on this ice cream, so I didn't feel the reason to share it with him. I went to my mom because I was annoyed, and she was in the kitchen when it happened. She then told me that I've been rude to him lately, when I haven't been rude to him at all, and any of my rude behavior was me calling him out for being rude to me. She then told me how I need to treat him better and stop being rude to him. Well, today I walked inside after my mom told me that a package came for us. My stepdad then brought the box inside and decided to open the box so I could get my stuff. He looked at me and said, "That's mine," even though he knew the box had stuff for me and my mom in it. My mom told him that he could go through her stuff and take anything he wanted, but did not take any of my stuff. So I decided to text my mom and I complained once again about his behavior because his words were unnecessary, but instead she said that I was being rude. My last straw was when I found him in my snack drawer. I have my own drawer of snacks as I avoid wheat due to having a wheat allergy, and my snacks are gluten-free, and I'm the only one in the house who has any reason to eat gluten-free snacks. So I called him out, as my mom had told him multiple times to stay away from my snacks, and that snacks for everyone else are in the drawer below. So am I the jerk for calling out my stepdad? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, your stepdad sounds super annoying, and it seems like he's doing this on purpose just to try and get under your skin. And yes, your stepdad is a problem, but also the fact that your mom is not doing anything about this, that in my opinion is an even bigger problem. It shows that she does not give a flying crap about your experience in that household. And that's a huge red flag. Like, that really sucks. Like, this guy's got it out for you and your mom is just letting it happen. She's just saying, "Oh, you have to be the one to change. You're being so rude to him." And it's like, no, that's not what's going on, lady. You know for a fact he is screwing with you. So no, you're not the jerk for calling him out because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for giving my sister an allowance every month without telling my mom about it, all because I love my sister and I want to help her out? Because after my mom found out about this, she went ballistic, saying that because I'm doing this for my sister, she claims that I'm implying that she's a bad mom, leaving me in a situation where I worry I might have made a mistake. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my little sister, who we will call Ellie, has an intellectual disability. She's independent for the most part, but needs assistance for things like finances. She works but has a maximum she can earn due to her benefit situation that I simply won't be getting into here. So because of that, she has extremely little leftover money each month. And by extremely little, I mean next to none. If she does have a little extra $10, she uses it to buy things for her cat. Ellie is incredibly thoughtful and kind as a human being. Well, my husband and I have a little extra money each month, and we decided we would give some of that to Ellie so that she can have a little bit of fun. We give the money to her in the form of a gift card, usually to her grocery store, a coffee shop, or something else that she likes to go to and do, like the movies or something like that. Unfortunately, we don't live close to each other, so we can't take her to do these things in person. We chose to do this without telling our parents because we are all adults, and we confirmed it wouldn't impact her benefit situation at all. And this has, as of now, been going on for about 8 months now. However, my mom found out about this somehow and went ballistic. She called to say that she was extremely insulted we would go behind her back to be a parent for Ellie. She said we were implying that she was a bad mom, that we had no right to involve ourselves in Ellie's financial life. We were shocked to say the least and tried to explain it was just a little bit of money. We're talking maybe $100 at most each month. And we did this because we love Ellie, not because we're trying to undermine her. And for the record, my mom is not very healthily involved in Ellie's life. She does help with some logistical needs around her benefits, but my my dad does most of the work, and my mom doesn't support her financially at all. She obviously loves Ellie, but since they also live far apart, she's a bit less involved than my dad. So seriously, am I the jerk for this? Is my mom justified for being pissed off? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. I can tell you exactly why your mom's pissed off. She's mad because you're stepping up in a way that she isn't. Because right now she's projecting how she feels about herself onto you. She's trying to be like, oh, you think I'm a terrible mother and all this other crap, but it's like, no, you're saying it yourself. You're a terrible mom and you know it, and you could be more involved, but you're not. And that, in my opinion, is like the most revealing thing about this entire scenario. She could be doing more, but she's not, and the fact that you are makes her feel inferior, which hopefully will prompt some kind of change, but in my opinion, it probably won't. So no, you're not the jerk, and I think your mom is just being overdramatic. Am I overreacting for snapping at my best friend for inviting my awful ex-boyfriend to her wedding simply because he's a part of the friend group? Because right now, I'm seriously considering stepping away from this wedding and not being a part of it at all because of this. Here's what's going on. So my best friend is getting married in 2 months and asked me to be a bridesmaid. We've known each other since college, and at first I was very excited. That is, until she sent me the guest list and I saw my ex's name on it. This man emotionally mistreated me for 2 years. Gaslighting, public humiliation, cheating, the works. And she was there for all of it. She saw me crying on her couch countless times. We haven't been together for 4 years, but the trauma is still fresh sometimes. When I asked her why he was invited, she said to me, well, he's part of our friend group, and it would be weird if he wasn't there. Don't worry, you won't even have to talk to him. I told her that I couldn't believe she was prioritizing social convenience over my emotional safety. She then said I was making it about me and that weddings aren't the time for grudges. So I straight up told her that I wouldn't feel comfortable attending, let alone standing beside her. She then told me I was overreacting and that I was ruining her vibe. I haven't replied since, as I do kind of feel heartbroken over the friendship entirely. So seriously, am I overreacting for sitting this one out, or am I justified in any kind of way? Because right now I'm incredibly devastated. No, you're not the jerk, and you're definitely not overreacting. This guy literally mistreats you for years, and your friend saw this, and she still is like, oh, let's not hold a grudge. It'd be weird if he wasn't here. Let's not worry about that stuff right now. It's my wedding. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is some crazy behavior. Like, this lady does not sound like a friend at all. And just like someone said in the comments section of this post, luckily you found out right now, because my God, this is a huge red flag. She would happily bring along your ex-boyfriend instead of listening to you and in some way like prioritizing your safety. So no, you're not overreacting, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Would I be the jerk if I called the city on my neighbors after they parked their RV in the back alley that has effectively blocked me from parking pretty much anywhere near my house? Because after their rude attitude and condescending demeanor, I'm honestly considering doing this because right now I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my neighbors have always parked their work truck in the back alley by their garage. I am completely fine with this, even though sometimes it gets too close to my back entrance. However, they have now parked their detached RV in the back alley, and it is clearly blocking not only the back entrance, but it's just a little off to the entrance of my own double garage. Needless to say, it has been challenging parking my car that is on the side where their RV is parked, as I only have the opposite side of the back alley to angle my car to go in and out. They've parked their RV there for more than a month now, and so I finally cracked and I went to talk to them about it. I got one of the couple to answer the door, and I asked how long they were planning to park their RV in the back. Well, her response, although she did sound a bit annoyed, is that they will park there for a couple more days. And then she completely stopped the conversation by shutting her doors before I can say anything else. And so now, since I'm a little bit frustrated with her response, and in all honesty, just by the way she acted, I'm wondering if I would be the jerk by calling the city about their parking job. And as a side note, you definitely cannot park your RV in the back alley at all, meaning that I would be in the right for complaining about these people. Okay, first of all, no, you would not be the jerk if you complained about these people, because their attitude is what would really piss me off. If they slammed the door in my face after they're like, oh, we'll be there for a few more days, and then didn't explain anything further, like, holy crap, I would go to the furthest extent possible to make sure these people get in trouble. I would take pictures, I would take videos, I would show that yes, they're blocking my alleyway access, and they're literally preventing me from parking my car. So no, you would not be the jerk, especially with their attitude, because if they want to be toxic, then guess what? You can and should absolutely return the favor. Am I the jerk for asking my sister not to make jokes about kissing my fiance? Because after she did that during a July 4th party, it made things so awkward that I couldn't help but say something later in private, causing a massive argument between the two of us that's still going on today. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I have been together for about 3 years now, and recently he finally proposed. He has always been a family friend and was best friends with my sister for a while before we got together. My My sister is the way we met, and I will always be grateful for that. However, recently I was back home to visit my parents, and my sister came along as well. When the party died down, I was with my fiance, my sister, and another close family friend from home in my parents' basement. My sister sat in between me and my fiance, which I didn't mind because they are very close friends. However, she made a joke saying, "What if I made out with your fiance right now?" When she said this, I was shocked, but I didn't want to speak up right then and cause a fight in front of our friend. So I just said to her, "Oh, that would be crazy, so please don't do that." I then later approached my sister about it, and I asked why she would say that and that it's a bit weird to be talking about kissing my fiance. She then said that I was overreacting and that it was all jokes, going on about how I need to understand that this is just how she jokes with him. I understand they have been friends for a long time, but it made me very uncomfortable when she made that joke. I talked to my fiance and he said that he also thought it was weird of her to say that, but now I'm fighting with my sister about this almost every single day. So am I the jerk for starting a fight about this with her? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is weird behavior. I don't care who you are. Saying you're gonna make out with your sibling's fiance is not a good move. And if anything, that's a big red flag. Like seriously, this is messed up. And I can only imagine how uncomfortable that was for your fiance. If I was sitting there with my fiance and their sister was like, "Ooh, I can make out with you right now," I would stand up and be like, "What is going on right now? This is weird." Like just think if the roles were reversed. This would be a horrifying situation. So why does your sister get off on saying that and think it's okay? So no, you're definitely not the jerk for calling her out about this because she is absolutely in the wrong. That is a weird comment to make that is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not refunding pet sitting money immediately after the job was canceled overnight while I was attending a funeral abroad? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I was hired to pet sit for someone for about 2.5 weeks. I committed to the job, I kept her consistently updated, and I even booked my flight around the exact dates that she gave me. Everything was planned and I started the job as agreed. I was paid on the first day of pet sitting, and I had already begun caring for the pets when I received devastating news. A very close family member, someone who was like a mother to me, had passed away unexpectedly. I let the pet owners know right away, I kept her in the loop, and I arranged for full coverage for the days I would be away. I used the last of my savings to buy a last-minute international flight to attend the funeral, with every intention of returning after 5 days to complete the job. Well, after I landed in another country, she canceled the job. No prior warning, despite all my communication and all my planning. Now, she's demanding that I return the money she sent me immediately. And while I haven't refused, I just explained that I got back very late last night and I'm still grieving. I'm emotionally exhausted and financially drained. I need some time to get back on my feet. It feels like I'm being treated as if I flaked out or that I tried to take advantage, but I was doing everything I could to fulfill the job. I worked the first part, I communicated the entire time, and she canceled on me after I made huge sacrifices to follow through. So am I the jerk for not being able to pay her back immediately under these circumstances? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest with you. Yes, I absolutely think the original poster is the jerk. You did not fulfill your side of the agreement with this job. And yes, I understand you had a family member pass away, but at that point you left the job and you tried to ship it off to someone else, and I'm sure the owners of the pets were like, no, this is not going to work. So they absolutely should have canceled the job right then and there. So guess what? If they cancel the job, then that means you can't keep the money. You've got to give it back as explained. I don't care how emotionally drained or exhausted you are. They paid you for a service that you didn't provide. So yes, overall, I absolutely think that you definitely are the jerk. My entitled employer decided to screw me over right when I showed up for the job, as he tried to undercut my pay at the last second after I drove 9 hours to make the job. So I decided to get some much needed revenge by literally playing his game against him, forcing him to pay me even more money just to shut him down and show him that he cannot screw with me in this kind of way. Here's how it all went down. I want to start off by saying that I'm a paramedic, and please don't be fooled. We don't do cool stuff every day. It's a regular job with moments of sheer terror, stress, and tons of other things to do, but only at certain random times. After years of working the regular ambulance, I needed to go work where things were less stressful. Thankfully, a lot of industrial projects needed paramedics, and the exchange is fair but brutal. I avoided the stress in exchange for staggering periods of crushing boredom. Nobody wants me to be busy on an oil well completion. I'm there just in case crap goes down and to secure lower insurance rates. There are also way more different private companies that fill contracts to provide medical staff for industry than you might believe. So if work dries up at one company, I'm going to find the company that has work and sign up with them. And all the companies understand this. It's only casual class work, even if you do 84 hours a week, 3 weeks a month. Mercenaries go where money is, and I do the exact same thing. The quality of the company varies, and some companies give you good quality gear, and others give you crap that looks like it was made by Fisher-Price but less durable. Now the pay is around the same, and paramedics aren't available in huge abundance. Now, I don't know about any other industry, but we are an employee market right now. And for some weird reason, the average time people like being paramedics is 10 years. Whatever a company is paying its staff who's brand new and just out of school, I won't be working for them without being paid more than that. And sure, I may be an old man, but my experience has value. So I was contracted online by a company about a 24-day contract with possible work after that. My first question is always about the pay. The general manager seemed personable and charismatic on the phone, and he asked me what I've been making on average. So I told him that $34 an hour is the middle ground, and he replied by saying, "Okay, great. We can be competitive with that wage." And I thought to myself, well, crap. I don't know why I didn't press him on an exact number, and how I missed the weasel word competitive. I am normally way too suspicious and cynical to not get specifics or miss a huge red flag like that. I don't know where this sudden faith in the good intentions of strangers came from, because it's never been there before. Now, I agreed to start heading in my own car to their office the next day, as it was about a 9-hour drive away. And if you think that's a dumb thing to do without getting anything in writing, well, maybe, but it's just how it works out being a paramedic on industrial jobs. Nobody's ever tried to screw me over before, and it always goes the same. They ask me when I can start, and then they tell me to drive to this town and get my equipment and do paperwork to become an employee and get to the job. And the pay has always been what was agreed to, both verbally and in writing. Now, I arrived at this janky yard with an office trailer, and I met with the general manager. He then started talking about the oil well job, which is a large project, and it's why they need my level of care. So I thought to myself, okay, so there's a large chance of no incidents, and a small chance that something will explode and probably take us all out. We then toured the office and equipment before we went to his office to then move forward and complete the onboarding paperwork. He then said to me, "As soon as you sign the employment agreement, we can get you on the road. The job is set up to begin tomorrow." Now, I agreed that I could get on the road as soon as we fixed the error of my hourly rate, because they had it marked down that I was going to get paid $26 an hour when we had agreed on $34 an hour. And when I asked him about this, he said that he confirmed that this was the rate they wanted to pay me for the 24-day job. I then let the general manager know that I didn't like the deceptiveness or driving 800 kilometers for the experience. I didn't share his thoughts on the meaning of certain words. The general manager then said, "I hope you don't hold me responsible for the mismatch with our communication and your expectations," because apparently he was 100% convinced that I would agree to that wage before I would go home empty-handed. He even said to me, "Oh, you're here anyways, just this one time," and stuff like that came up over and over again. I already see myself in the future burning this man in effigy. I'll be holding hands and singing Kumbaya with his family at the same time. He clearly thinks he's the smartest person in the room everywhere he goes. I mean, I can't see any evidence that he's aware how transparent his bullcrap is. Like, he's definitely not in any danger of being appointed to the Royal Society by mistake. If I was risking homelessness, I would have done it. It's harder to exploit people if they don't risk immediate economic ruin. I mean, I have savings. During that time in history and during that season of the year, it actually wouldn't have been unreasonable to get a different job the same week or even in the same day, because getting too many job offers was the real problem. I let the guy know that I wasn't interested in the job at that wage. And trust me, you would be very wrong in thinking he would let that be the end of it. He kept showing me how much contempt he had for me as a person. He said to me, "We could come up in wages, but it might mean that some bills don't get paid on time. We could go to $30 an hour. What do you say about that?" And I said to him, "Well, you're about $4 an hour away from being at the solution." He then started talking about how it's tough being a small company that nobody helps. "We have to bid low on jobs to get them. We can't survive if we don't, and that means that we can't pay the most. We can't compete without doing that. Maybe you just don't understand capitalism or running a business." He then gave vague, non-specific statements, and pledges of future benefits occurred. He was basically saying, "Oh, we help people who help us." Or he'll say, "Oh, we remember our friends and loyalty, and eventually we pay our dividends." Now, I don't know about others, but I hate when an employer makes statements about them being more like family. I mean, maybe your family, but nobody in my family tries to screw me over, and they don't financially mistreat other relatives. I work for money. I'm a professional. I hold a professional license, and you pay me for my professional skills. If the quality you're looking for above all else is loyalty, then hire a golden retriever. Now, all of this manipulative nonsense might have worked on me when I was a bit younger, and I viewed life with a rosier shade. But I'm not special. Most veteran paramedics wouldn't react much differently. I told him that I was leaving, and then I got in my car and I said, "Burn my resume. Good luck in your quest to find someone desperate enough to debase themselves." Well, I got about 20 minutes down the highway before I took a call from the general manager, and I thought to myself, oh, screw it, why not? Let's go ahead and answer it. I'm actually curious why he wants to talk to me. In that time frame, he had called their customer, the billion-dollar oil company, and told them that they had no paramedic for the next day. Well, that sucks because as this guy explained it to me, they couldn't legally do any work if one wasn't on site. And these oil barons must have said some ugly and menacing words to him because when we talked, he was tripping over himself himself to get me to come back for this job. He kept saying that $34 an hour is fine, he'll pay for it. I'm a special boy and they're spoiling me with my allowance. He tried hard to be personable and act like my long-term bestie. Joked about the owner not being able to lease a new Mercedes until next year. Laughs and chuckles because, who cares, right? At least they won't be stuck paying for all the cost of putting an entire site on standby. Now, at this point, I fought the impulse to engage in comical levels of extortion. Everyone really should admire my restraint, because I really wanted to tell him, hey, I'll do it for $250,000 a day. But instead, I chose an extra $6 above my initial wage. I arrived there being willing to cut a small company some slack on my regular $34 an hour, and not even an hour after dealing with their manager, I felt justified in any outrageous demand. When I told the general manager that I'd be happy to drive back for this job, he made an audible noise of relief. His bacon must have been truly torched without me returning. But that moment of relief soured when I told him I wasn't going to do it without being paid $40 an hour. Well, that guy didn't take it with grace. What are you talking about? That's not the wage you told me you normally make. You can't do that. And you know what? He's right. That's the top dollar I made for a short notice, must be done kind of job. He's very wrong if he thinks I can't be a huge jerk when negotiating my wage. I mean, laws aren't written to enforce politeness. I confirmed that this was a recent price change, and I stated, well, I hope you don't hold me responsible for this sudden increase in labor cost. I don't control the invisible hand of economics. Market forces dictate wages. Right now, there's an urgent need for skilled people and a shortage of an available workforce. Well, when I said that, he agreed to my offer, and I'm not ignorant about his lack of options. I got an explicit wage offer in multiple pieces of writing, and I wasn't surprised to learn that he is not a gracious loser. The snide remarks just kept coming in. Shutting him up was a Herculean task not worth my effort. He told me that I might be damaging myself long term, as this could harm my reputation and lose my future employment. And it's like, what are you talking about? Damaging my reputation for being a competent paramedic who also behaves like a jerk with regularity? God forbid the EMS community discovers my abrasive nature and lack of decorum. Please don't inform everyone how I don't feel the need to use a language filter in every single situation. You can't alienate me from anything, bro. I've beaten you to that eons ago. Well, thankfully, my paycheck was what I was expecting it to be, without anything going wrong or getting mixed up. And to be completely honest, I wasn't actually convinced that's how it would all play out. The job was fine, nothing worth remembering, and I only did the 24-day job. I didn't ask about more work, and they definitely did not offer. Because at the end of the day, it's important to not underestimate your own value, especially when it comes to people who are actively trying to screw you over. Oh my gosh, this guy's a piece of crap who did this to you. Seriously, you agree to $34 an hour on the phone, and then you show up and this guy's like, oh, whoops, looks like it's gonna be less. You're gonna take the job, right? Oh yeah, it starts tomorrow, by the way. Like, dude, you drove over 800 kilometers. You drove 9 hours to get there. And I don't know about you, but if I drove that far just to get the rug pulled out from underneath me, I would be pissed. I would be so upset, like seriously. So good for you for setting this guy straight and playing his game against him, because his behavior was completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate borrow my laptop for her online exam after she literally broke her own? Because right now she's saying that I'm being controlling for not just handing it over, and at this point I feel like a bad friend and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female college student living with my roommate, who we will call Emma, in a shared apartment. I'm super careful with my stuff, especially my laptop, which I saved up for last year to use for school and side gigs. Now, Emma is generally pretty cool, but she's not great with her electronics. She has cracked her phone screen twice and recently dropped her laptop, which stopped working entirely. Well, last week Emma told me that she has an important online exam coming up, and she asked to borrow my laptop for it since hers is broken. Now, I was hesitant because I've got my own assignments due, and I use my laptop to freelance graphic design work, which is time sensitive. Plus, I'm paranoid about something happening to it given her track record. I offered to let her use it at our kitchen table while I'm home, just so I could keep an eye on it, and I even suggested that she try to use the library's computers as a backup. But when I said that, she got upset with me, saying the library's computers are slow and she needs a reliable device for her timed exam. She then called me controlling for not just handing it over, and said I'm not being a good friend, especially since she's let me borrow small things like her hairdryer before. I feel bad because I know she's stressed about her exam, and I really just don't want to seem stingy, but I worked hard for my laptop, and I need it for my own work and my own classes. I also don't think it's fair that she expects me to risk my device when she hasn't been careful with hers. I suggested she ask another friend or rent a laptop herself, but she said I'm making it harder for her, and then she stormed off. So am I the jerk for not letting her borrow my laptop outright? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, no, you are not the jerk. You're not obligated to give her your laptop just because you're roommates. And the fact that she's trying to be like, oh, you should just give it to me. You're being so controlling right now. I can't stand this. Like, that's just straight up manipulation. This is your property. You don't have to give it to her. And you know what? If she really needs to take that exam, she can use the library computer. Like, who cares if it's slow? Go ahead and use that if you really need something. Because there's a high likelihood that your laptop is going to get broken too, because she's busted her phone screen twice and dropped her own laptop and it's not even working anymore. So no, you're not the jerk for not giving it to her. She's clearly not to be trusted, and honestly, I would not even entertain that for another second. Am I the jerk for ghosting someone after they basically started to copy my entire personality? Because after dealing with this for so long, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met this girl at my college language learning center, and at first she seemed super chatty, like very chatty, but I just assumed that she might be neurospicy, so I didn't think much of it and I just vibed pretty well with her. But it honestly started getting really weird. Like, I would say stuff like, well, I'm gonna go run to the bathroom real quick, 1 second. And she'd say, okay, I'll come with you. Or I would say, I need to go skate alone for a bit to clear my head. And then she would just insist on coming along every single time, even though she doesn't even skate or have a board in the first place. Even if I said I just needed a minute, if I went to go get snacks for my friends, she would have to come along too. One time, I needed to talk about something serious with my friend, and she literally followed us out. And even when I told her that she needed to leave, she proceeded to say, oh, I just want to hear what's going on. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? She also kept bringing me food, which was honestly super sweet. And let's be real, as a broke college student living on not that much money, that is a big deal for people you just met. But with that in mind, she also kept saying she didn't have money and lived out of state. So it just made me and a lot of my friends feel worried and guilty. When I first met her, I gave her my TikTok so that we could send each other videos. But I never have notifications on because I don't want to get hooked. When I checked like 3 days later, she had sent me over 150 videos. And every time I saw her, she would ask me again and again if I'd watched all of them, pointing out specific ones and making me open my phone to watch them right then and there. But I then noticed slowly but surely, she started talking like me, using my little phrases, mimicking my laugh, even going as far as copying my accent. Now, for the record, I don't even really have one, but I'm from a place where certain words sound different. And then on top of all of that, she started dressing exactly like me. Jean jackets, the same shoes, the same leggings, even down to the specific brands. Now I wear a headscarf, but I'm not super strict on the way I dress, but I make sure no skin is showing as we live in a desert, so it's really hot. So when she started dressing the exact same and complained about the heat, it finally got to me. It even got to music. She's from the South and said that she was a country fan, but after I brought up my taste, she suddenly would blast it on her headphones around her neck or post it on her story. After a few months of that, this incident really pushed me to cut her off. I let her try my board one day and offered to help her learn, and she was like, no, I got it, and then fell every single time. She couldn't even balance, and even ignored my advice. And I don't really think much of it until she calls me that night, literally panicking and having an anxiety attack. She said to me, I need to get the same skateboard as you, and the next day she shows up with the exact same one, like down to the design and the logo. She didn't write it once, but also she put it next to mine and kept trying to get me to look at it and adjust it with my tools. And that was honestly my breaking point, because after that, I just kind of started distancing myself. I stopped letting her follow me everywhere, I stopped accepting her food, and eventually stopped being super friendly. When she brought us crumble cookies and I politely said no thank you, she straight up got mad and was like, I bought these for you. Why are you ignoring me? And it was the first time I saw her genuinely aggressive, and it really freaked me out. She eventually stopped coming around and I didn't even notice it at first. But I haven't seen her on campus either. I never explained why I pulled away, I just did. And I feel like maybe I should have said something. Maybe she was just lonely or didn't realize how much she was crossing boundaries. But also, I felt like my every move was being followed by someone who wanted to become me. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this is some weird behavior. She only wanted to be around you because she wanted to copy you and become exactly like you. And that is super weird in my opinion. I can understand why you would get frustrated, because I know I would absolutely get frustrated with that as well, especially with her literally just crossing boundaries left and right. So no, you're not the jerk, and you're definitely not obligated to entertain whatever the crap was going on with her, because her behavior was incredibly weird. Am I the jerk for refusing to take sides in a workplace feud after my coworkers have lost their mind, accusing a coworker of stealing from the rest of them? Because right now this is all so petty and stupid, I honestly just want nothing to do with it. Here's what's going on. I'm a 39-year-old female, and I've been an ER doctor in a small rural hospital for 6 years now. One of the ugly secrets not everyone knows about hospitals is that valuables often go missing. It's deplorable, but in a place with hundreds of workers and thousands of strangers constantly coming in and out, likely not everyone is gonna be honest. So since my first day here, my coworkers told me to hide my wallet because cash tends to disappear around here. But what kept changing was the alleged culprit. In my first year, everybody swore it was a health technician who eventually quit for unrelated reasons. Then they switched to blame an ER nurse, and now to another for the past 2 to 3 years. Now, I believe that where there's smoke, there's also fire. And that being said, my own experience in these years has always been very positive. I'm known to be very forgetful and careless about my stuff, yet nothing has ever disappeared. As long as I've been here, I've always refused to take sides. I'm friendly with everyone, and although I enjoy innocent gossip, like who's sleeping with who, I firmly refuse to judge anyone based on voices alone. Now, a woman we will call Amy, who is the person everyone's blaming for this, has always been a friend of mine. We exchange jokes, and sometimes we speak in confidence. She's in a rough spot because of health concerns with her elderly parents, and I try to be as supportive as possible. But what really drives me up a wall is the general attitude in the ward. At least 3 ER workers have told me that they have personally witnessed Amy rummaging through coworkers and patients' purses, yet no one has ever stopped her in the act, or even called her to the side to ask what in the world she was doing or filed a report. Lately, I've been unwillingly involved in this drama, although I always just try to stay out of it. A couple of colleagues have openly criticized me for continuing to be in good terms with Amy, implying that if I keep being friends with her, then I must condone her behavior. But yesterday, I finally lost my cool. I bluntly stated that I have the right to talk to whoever I want, that I've never actually seen a sliver of proof that she's actually done what she's accused of, that adult people should have the courage to speak up when they see someone committing a crime, and that this mean girl's attitude is more worthy of kindergarten than any kind of professional setting. As so, I'm now shunned by a good portion of my coworkers. Now, I couldn't care less about what my coworkers think, but I'm torn about how I handled the situation. If Amy is actually guilty, of course I won't shield her anymore, but I don't feel comfortable jumping on the bandwagon with nothing more than whispers and gossip. So am I the jerk for refusing to take sides in this workplace feud? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly frustrated. Okay, honestly, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because these people literally go from one person to the next just blaming anybody in their path. And you hit the nail on the head. If they really had witnessed Amy like stealing or rifling through other people's crap, then they should have said something. But instead they sat by idly and just said, oh, I'm just gonna talk about it instead of doing something about it. And also, I love the fact that you're like, look, I can talk to whoever I want. I'm not getting involved in this stupid drama and you can't make me. Because truthfully, that's the way it should be. You should not be forced to get into this stupid, idiotic drama in the slightest. So no, you're not the jerk here, because there's no way I would ever take sides, as this seems incredibly stupid to argue over. Am I the jerk for not spending time with my sister, even though my mom and sister both say that I'm the problem, despite the fact that I haven't done anything? Because right now I'm honestly feeling very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 19 years old and I have a twin sister, and we've always gotten along about as well as siblings do. We would fight, make up, and sometimes need our parents to step in, but we were close growing up. The last few years though, she's gotten into serious trouble. When we were 16 years old, she started sneaking out with a 20-year-old guy and his friends. Even though I had nothing to do with it, I got in trouble too. And that happened more than once. Every time she did something wrong, I somehow got pulled into it, and I ended up getting punished as well. Eventually, I told her to stop telling me what she was doing because I didn't want to be involved anymore. Around Christmas that year, one of her friends called my mom and said that my sister had been drinking every night and was really depressed. Not long after that, my parents found out that she had slept with a bunch of people. Things blew up at home after that, and it felt like we were always dealing with some kind of crisis. Now, to be fair, nothing major has happened in the last 6 months. She seems more stable, but now my mom takes her side in everything. No matter what, I'm always the one being told that I'm doing something wrong. Things got worse after she broke up with her long-term boyfriend, who I will call Jay for the sake of the story. She spiraled after that. We found out later that he had been mistreating her, so I get why she was struggling, but she also started lashing out at me a lot more. When they were together, I was always respectful of her time. She would stay over at his house for days, and I never said anything about it. I understood that she loved him and wanted to be with him. Right before they broke up, I started dating my current boyfriend, and at first she was fine with it, but once she was single, she started yelling at me for spending time with him. She tells me I'm selfish and that I never want to be around her anymore. Now, I see my boyfriend about twice a week, sometimes more and sometimes less. I know I've spent less time with her, but I also feel like she's made it unbearable to be around her. She's always sad or angry, and she takes everything out on me. She acts like I'm her only friend in the world, and I just don't want that role. I know if she had a boyfriend right now, this wouldn't even be an issue. She also has a habit of getting involved in big friend groups, and then somehow they fall apart. She will get close with people, and then drama starts and things explode. Even my mom has admitted this happens. So it's not just me who feels like she can be toxic and emotionally draining. Despite all of this, both my mom and my sister are saying that I'm the one being selfish. They say that I'm a bad sister for pulling away, and that I should be there for her. But I've spent years trying to support her, and I honestly just feel burnt out. I love her, but I don't like being around her anymore. So am I the jerk for wanting space and not hanging around her as often, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. When it comes to family, if they're mistreating you, then guess what? It's time to pull back and try and do something else. You do not have to put up with that for a second. Their disrespect is not justifiable because you have not done anything wrong. So no, you're not the jerk. This is just you setting up healthy boundaries. And if they can't respect that, then that is absolutely their problem and not yours. My entitled ex-boyfriend lies about me to everybody that we know. From family to clients, he literally goes out of his way to say that I lied about cheating and that I am emotionally manipulating him. So I decided to get some revenge by treating him exactly the same way, by revealing all of his dirty secrets and ruining his reputation, causing his career to go right down the drain. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things out, my now ex-boyfriend and I had been dating for a few years. We built everything together, we moved in, started a small business, even talked about marriage. But one day, he finds a hoodie in our apartment that wasn't his, and he just immediately says, "Oh, who have you been bringing around here?" Well, it was his friend's hoodie. His friend literally left it over a few nights ago when they came around. I told him that, and I showed him proofs, and even got his friend to confirm it, but apparently it just didn't matter. He kept digging and grilling me, accusing me of clearing evidence. Then he said the one thing that flipped a switch in me. "I don't believe you, but I'm willing to move past it if you apologize and admit it was disrespectful." Now, here's the thing. You do not accuse me and then dangle forgiveness like a prize. So I packed a bag that night and I left. And after I did that, he didn't reach out for days. But you might be wondering, what did he do instead? Well, he started bad-mouthing me to mutual friends and clients, claiming that I emotionally manipulated him, lied about cheating, and ghosted him. So I played his game too. I decided to play the role. If I'm the cheater that he told the world that I was, then I was just gonna stop protecting his image. I then sent screenshots of his shady text messages with other women from months ago. I also let people know that I was the one who funded half of his business. When clients asked why I left, I told them the truth word for word with receipts. And by the end of the month, his reputation tanked. He begged me to take the post down, said I was hurting his career, but I just smiled and said, "Well, this is what you wanted, right? You treated me like the villain and I'm just following your script." And you know what? Now I'm thriving. I rebranded the business under my name, and I don't flinch whenever I see his name anymore. He made me the villain, so I gave him a really good story to reflect on. Oh man, I love this story so much because seriously, this guy's a complete douchebag. The fact that he tried to be like, "Oh, you need to admit that you were wrong and apologize," you know, even though you didn't do anything wrong. The hoodie belonged to his friend. Like, what's wrong with this guy? And the fact that he's trying to be like, "You need to apologize before I can even move on from this." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? There's nothing to apologize for. The original poster literally did nothing wrong, and you're trying to be like, "You need to apologize." So I love the fact that you tanked his reputation, and I love the fact that you didn't try to protect him anymore. Like, if this guy wants to tell lies about you, then congratulations. All the truth about him is gonna come out. So good for you for doing that, because it sounds like this guy absolutely deserves it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen demands that we move out of the way, despite the fact that we're at a public area that anyone could go to, as she chose to act like a jerk instead of a reasonable human being. Here's what happened. Okay, so near where I live, there's a steep mountain to drive up and down as part of the trip to the coast. It's narrow and a single lane for most of it, but it's a very popular drive. On one wide corner, there's a bit of a tiny cave in a rock, and people have named this Pooh's Corner, and have put a teddy bear of Pooh in the cave. And because there's a very small amount of extra space here to pull off, it's become a spot for families with kids to sometimes stop and let the kids look at the teddy bear and add their own bears, etc. But generally, there's only room for 1 to 2 vehicles at a time, so it is sporadically used. We were there with our kids having a look on our way down to the coast, and we were also looking for a geocache in the area. Well, a lady parked on the uphill side with her 4-wheel drive and horse flat filling the only 2 parking spots, came over and just straight up said to us, "I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." Now, it's really important to note that this is a public area, and she didn't appear to have any official authority of any sort, so her approach got me seriously offended almost immediately. Now, not believing the entitlement, I was like, "I beg your pardon?" And she just repeated herself again, "I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." I then replied by saying, "I'm sorry, but we won't be doing that. My kids and I are looking for something." She looked defeated and apologized, and only then decided to explain herself, telling us she is traveling in a convoy and had been told over the radio that the friends still coming up the mountain behind her are having problems with their engine overheating, and they will need a spot to pull up. Now, our spot was on the downhill side, so I'm not sure how this was gonna help. I mean, she would have been better off just moving her own vehicle. But it's funny how much more helpful I would have been if she had politely asked me if we could move and just told us why from the start, instead of basically ordering us like some cop using their move-along powers. hours, because being kind truly would have done the trick. Yeah, that's a really weird attitude in my opinion. I understand you might have like family that's like freaking out and they're probably having problems, but that's no reason to be rude, dude. Just like explain yourself. If you give me some context and a reason to move, then guess what? I'll move out of the way. But if you're gonna be a condescending jerk, then don't expect anything from me. In fact, don't even talk to me, dude. Like, just stay away from me. So yeah, this lady's attitude was incredibly condescending, and I don't blame you for being hesitant in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling off my future sister-in-law when she didn't want to invite my younger brother to her wedding? Because despite the fact that my younger brother has quite literally done nothing wrong, he is still treated like the black sheep of the family, all because he didn't play football in high school, causing me to stand up for him because this treatment is truly unacceptable. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I have a 26-year-old older brother who we will call Drew, who is getting married at the end of this summer. To say it lightly, me and his fiance, who we will call Lacey, do not get along in the slightest. She is very stuck up and has made some snide comments to me and my younger brother, who we will call Max. For context, Max is 16 years old and has always been the black sheep of the family. He is very academically and artistically talented, but my father and mother are disappointed in his lack of sports. And yeah, it's cliche, I know. Not to mention that they favored my sister, his twin, who we will call Caroline. Max and Lacey were civil for a while, but I guess I haven't seen them speak for a long time for reasons unknown to me. The problem occurred last night when I was asking Lacey about the wedding and how the planning was going. She started telling me her seating chart and showing me what she had planned. And as I was looking at the chart, Max's name was nowhere to be found. I don't love Lacey, but I'm not going to assume the worst of her. So I asked her where Max's name was, and she suddenly got quiet. She said to me, "He's not going to be there." I then said to her, "You mean not in the wedding party, right?" But she says to me in a calm fashion, "No, he's not invited." And she said it in a way as if she was talking about the weather. I kept asking her why she wouldn't invite him but invited Caroline instead. But she just said that she feels Caroline is more mature because she's a girl. Now, this wedding isn't going to be child-free. Lacey has stated this multiple times. I have many little cousins who are also being invited, since family is very important to us. So not inviting Max makes no sense. He is a very nice kid and very mature for his age. Much more mature than Caroline is. He never causes problems, but like I mentioned earlier, there are some big issues with him not following Drew's and my dad's footsteps in football. I know Lacey is very desperate for my family's approval, so maybe outlining Max is the way to do it for her, but I have a feeling that there's something more to it. After what Lacey said about not inviting Max, I stood up and started yelling at her for not including Max. She then kind of just ignored what I was saying, but when I escalated, Drew came over. As he was walking over, she started to cry and make a bigger scene about it. Drew then knelt down to comfort her and gave me dirty looks in the process. Once she was inside, he turned to me and started yelling at me about being rude to her when she is under so much stress from planning the wedding and trying to get my family to like her. I understand that my family is close-knit and kind of not welcoming to newcomers, but that doesn't excuse her behavior, and that's exactly what I told my brother. I then asked him why he didn't want to invite Max, and he just told me to stay out of it, which is a classic move for him. He called me a jerk for treating Lacey like that, and then just walked out. And you know what? We haven't spoken since last night. I understand that yelling at her was a bit much, and I could have handled the situation differently, but I am sick of seeing Max being left out and treated badly. I don't want to fight with Drew, but I'm standing my ground for Max's sake. Max also doesn't know about any of this yet, and I'm hesitant to tell him. My parents have stayed out of it so far, but Drew is still set on being mad at me. So truly, am I the jerk right now? Because I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, literally, this is so stupid. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Because from the sounds of it, like, Max doesn't sound like a bad kid. He does well in school and he likes art. Like, seriously, what's the problem here? Are these people really that bent out of shape where they can't see the good in their kid and treat him with some semblance of respect? Like, do people actually act like this? Like, this is so bizarre to me. Like, first and foremost, the only reason Max is the black sheep of the family is because the family has rejected him. Not because of anything he's done, but because he literally isn't doing what they've done in the past. And that is so stupid in my opinion. Like, why not let your kid be themselves and do whatever they want to do? So it really almost seems like they're doing this almost out of obligation instead of Max doing something that actually warrants this kind of behavior. If Max was destructive or violent or rude or something like that, then sure, I could understand why he would not be invited. Like, it would make sense at that point. But from the sounds of it, it's like, okay, they're just excluding him because they're terrible people. And in my opinion, Drew, as well as anybody else who agrees with this decision, absolutely needs to be called out publicly for the way they're treating your younger brother. He literally hasn't done anything wrong. These people are out of their minds for mistreating him, and it honestly just doesn't compute with me. Like, seriously, I don't understand this. So I know for a fact if I was in their shoes, I would absolutely scream this from the rooftops and I would not show up to that wedding. I would say, hey, look, these people are excluding my little brother for no reason, all because he didn't play football supposedly, which is quite possibly one of the dumbest reasons to cut someone out of the family, because this behavior deserves to be ridiculed and mocked and absolutely called out, because otherwise this kind of crap will happen over and over again. An entitled mother blames me for almost hitting their dog, despite the fact that they were standing in the middle of the path that I was trying to cycle down. And I'm honestly still super pissed off about this situation that I just don't know what to do. Here's how it went down. I'm a 20-year-old female and I was cycling through my local park on my bike. Nothing unusual was going on when I happened to go past the children's play area. The path around said play area was barely wide enough for a pram, so I was going pretty slow. I came around the corner and the entitled mother of the story is stood in the path, with her pram blocking the path itself. So I start to ring the bell on my bike, but there's still no movement from this lady. This happens 5 more times and still no movement of any kind. So when I go to cycle around them, their dog runs across the path and I have to swerve to avoid hitting the dog, which is nothing I haven't dealt with before. So I stop, I get off the bike and I walk over. I say to her, "Hey, can you please keep your dog under control? I would not have almost run over it if you had just moved." The entitled mother said, "No, my child is injured, so it's not my fault. You're the one that almost hit my dog." I then said to her, "Your child is in a pram. They look like they aren't even hurt. And I gave you plenty of warning that I was there." She then said to me, "Yeah, well, I just wasn't going to move because my child is injured." At this point, an older man comes over who looks like he's maybe in his 60s and starts telling me off for talking to this entitled mother like that. So I tell him that guess what? It's a public park. I'm allowed to cycle with due care. Bear in mind this is the United Kingdom and there's signs where you can and can't ride. There's no sign saying no cycling because people cycle along it all the time. He then goes on to say, "Well, it's a public footpath. You aren't allowed to cycle here." But I responded by saying, again, it's a public park. And yes, I'm allowed to cycle with due care. It's not my fault she can't control her dog. The old man then says to me, "It's a public footpath. You shouldn't be cycling on it." But I just say again, there's no sign saying I can't cycle on this path. It's a public park. And if she had just moved, I wouldn't have almost hit her dog. The entitled mother then tells me, "Just go away. I'm not arguing in front of my kids." At this point, I was pretty worked up because I had almost hit a dog and they weren't listening to what I was saying. So I ended up telling the entitled mother to move next time. And I tell the old man to not get involved next time, all before cycling off. I then end up sitting down on the bench and just take a wild guess as to what I see over at the play area when I look that way. That's right, I see the entitled mother with her kid running around. I'm honestly baffled and I don't know if I did something wrong here because this entire situation was so ridiculous. Oh man, she's literally that kind of person. She will not get out of anybody's way, and if anything happens to her because of her own negligence, she's now going to be like, "Oh, this is your fault. You almost hit me and my kid. This is your fault." When in reality, if she literally just moved off the footpath, you know, the path that people use for their bicycles, this would not have happened. Like, what's going on right now? This is so stupid. So personally, I think he did the right thing by telling this Karen off because she literally was just being an obstruction for anybody who's trying to ride their bike. Because in my opinion, there's absolutely no defending this kind of behavior. An entitled Karen says that I'm not nearly disabled enough to be parking in a disabled parking spot, saying that if I didn't move my car, she was going to have it towed when I walked away, leaving me in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my life. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I'm a self-employed contractor. I go where I'm needed for however many days I'm needed for. Sometimes it's for 2 days and sometimes it's a few hours. I park in customer or visitor parking or wherever else is open to any given person unless the work order specifically says otherwise. I'm also qualified for a disabled parking pass due to issues I have with my knees and my legs. I use it when I need it, and if I'm waffling, I'll take it only if there are others free. Better safe than sorry when it comes to my pain level and tolerances. So I'm on a multi-day, 1-day-a-week gig for a company downtown in my city where parking is problematic. Between the businesses and the apartment complex literally right next door, many have to walk for a chunk of time to get into the building or pay handsomely for parking. Thankfully, there's a disabled parking space right out front that is typically free. And today I am hurting. It feels like crystals are growing in my joints, and lifting my feet even at curb height is basically my entire available energy stores. And they had a ramp or else I definitely would have left right then and there, and that is definitely not a joke. So I get out and there's someone in the smoking area right off my car. And sure, I don't like smelling smoke at the end of my day, but it is what it is. And this is also where we meet the star of our story, the entitled Karen in question. And yes, I use that name, but it is well deserved. Trust me, you'll find out later on. She says something to me right as I exit my car, but I can't really hear her because of the road traffic. So I walk around the side so we can talk more clearly. Now, if you're not paying attention, it may have looked like I walked around the side like a typical person would, but in reality, I'm leaning hard on my car because I'm hurting and my medicine hasn't really kicked in yet. This Karen then says, "You can't park there. There are people in wheelchairs who need it more." Now, it's really important to note that no one was around, so she was obviously meaning some mystery person in the future would need it. Now, as a quick side note, why is it that when an ableist person wants to be entitled, it's always a wheelchair user, not a walker, a cane, or arm crutches? And to be completely honest, it's beginning to be a sign of what's to come. But I was, however, finally able to use a line I'd had loaded for way too long. This is give or take, but you'll get the idea. I said to her, "Since when did you become my doctor and determine I don't need accessible parking anymore?" This entitled Karen then looked at me and said, "You park here all day long, and other people need to get into the bank." But it's like additional disabled parking is available directly around the corner, and it's on the main entrance to the bank, so I don't know what she's talking about. I then look at this Karen and I say, "Ma'am, why do you care? I'm allowed to park here." But she says to me, "No, you're not. Other people need it way more than you do, and they can't park here if you are." And again, no one's around. The bank was even closed. Like, what is she talking about? I say to her, "Ma'am, I'm allowed to park here. I'm not here all day, and even if I was, there's no time limit on this spot." But Karen isn't letting this go. So I pull out my phone to record for my own safety. She then stops talking, long enough for the security guard parked literally next to me to say she is allowed to park here. And I didn't hear it, but I would confirm it later. But despite the camera still rolling, this Karen simply couldn't help herself. She said, "You can't park here. You've been here every day for the last 2 weeks, and other people need it more than you." I said to her, "Well, despite the fact that I look normal, I need this space. You are not my doctor," and he would not risk his license lying on an official form just so I can have more convenient parking. The Karen then said to me, "You've been here all day, every day for 2 weeks. You should not be parking here." But I said to her, "I wasn't here yesterday, nor the day before, nor the day before that, or the one before that one." She tried to say yes, but I just responded back by saying, "No, I wasn't. I was at a different address. Would you like to see my GPS logs? I keep them for tax reasons." The Karen, glossing over the fact that I can prove her wrong, she said to me, "You work in that building. You can't park here if you work in that building. You'll be here all day and other people need it more." But I responded back again saying there is no time limit on this space. I then move my camera to the parking sign and I say to her, "And I have a permit. I'm allowed to park here. And I don't work in that building. I work here," which I then tap my magnetic business logo attached to my open car door and right in front of the Karen. Well, this interaction went in circles 3 more times as she literally repeated herself over and over again. But this entitled Karen then said the following, "Well, we'll just see when your car gets towed. If you want to risk it, that's up to you." I then zoom in on her face on my phone, not knowing if I'm capturing anything because the early morning sun with its famous glare is everywhere. I figured just in case she slashes my tire or something like that, I have her face on my phone. Well, that shut her up enough to get my stuff and walk to the front door with an obvious limp and limb lifting restrictions. This Karen tries to say something right when I get to the door, the last desperate move she can make, despite being proven wrong, and just still can't let it go. But instead of listening to her, I say, "Ma'am, I'm done talking to you about this. You're not my doctor, you're not my family, nor anyone that I care about. I'm not proving myself to a stranger, proving myself disabled enough for your liking." Then I all but literally dropped the mic and I walked away. Well, not too long later, I go down under the guise of forgetting something from my car, and it turns out I really did forget something, so it was all good. But also because I felt like Karen was gonna pull something off, and I just got a bad vibe. The security guard and his partner were still out front, and the Karen was thankfully gone. I then asked him if anyone had an issue with me parking there, making sure I wasn't in the apartment complex's assigned spaces or something like that just to be safe. He said he told the Karen I was allowed to park there, and she said she was still gonna have me towed. He then said he told her to call the cops, but that I was legally allowed there, and they wouldn't do squat. And also, the guard's partner totally has similar issues with her joints, so she 100% knew where I was coming from, especially with feeling the crunchy crystals growing in your extremities. She told her partner that they should keep an eye on my car to be safe, and that I don't need to worry about the Karen. The Karen was the neighborhood gossip and was always telling or upping everybody else's business. And in fact, she didn't even have her own car. A while later, I go back to my car for parts, and I see her talking to people by the bank, right in the loading zones with blue curbs, aka disability parking. She's telling them that I won't move, so they have to stay back here. But everyone she talked to literally said, "Oh, it's okay, I don't mind, I'm good here," or some version of that. Right before I packed up for the day, I went to the window and I saw this Karen back in the smoking area. And of course, she was eyeballing and glaring at my car. So I grabbed my keys and I honked them to make sure that she didn't screw with me, just in case I had forgotten or it might have been unlocked somehow. Well, she jumped slightly, looked around as if trying to find me, but doesn't see me. The windows are reflective from the outside, so she couldn't find me even if she did think to look up at my story. I honked it again for good measure, laughing all the way back to my tools and finishing packing up. But I think the part that really stands out the most is the fact that she didn't ask me to move. She told me that I couldn't park there, so that some mystery person could park there if they wanted to, if they ever did show up. But seriously, ableists are some of the most entitled people I've ever dealt with, and this Karen absolutely takes the cake. Yeah, this is some crazy stuff. I am so sorry the original poster had to deal with that. The fact that they're trying to be like, oh, you don't deserve to park there. Other people need it more. It's like, dude, I don't have to like prove the fact that I'm disabled. It's none of your business, so why don't you mind your own business? Even going as far as being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna tow your car when you leave. Just watch. Like, dude, what are you talking about? I've got the placard in my window. You literally have permission to do this. You have a medical condition that requires you to use it. Like, why can't this lady just mind her own business and leave you alone? The original poster hasn't done anything wrong. They are literally just trying to live their life and go to work. And here they have this stupid Karen up in their business saying, you're not disabled enough. Like, that's super obnoxious in my opinion, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, because that is absolutely uncalled for. An entitled Karen demands that I give her my parking space, even though I had a disabled parking badge and I was waiting for my disabled partner. Things got so bad that she literally said she was going to sue me and that I would get in real legal trouble if I didn't give in to her demands, causing security to show up and finally shut this idiot down. Here's how it happened. Okay, this was a wild situation. I was picking up my disabled partner from the hospital, where we had been there for the last 2 weeks from a life-threatening incident. His team told me not to worry about traveling up to the ward, that they would escort him down to the car with his stuff if I grabbed a disabled spot. And I thought to myself, great, that works out just fine. I grabbed the spot as close to the ward as I possibly could, put his disabled badge on display, and then I waited. And it's then that I hear someone say, excuse me. I pop my head out of the window and I see a lady in her 50s has pulled up behind me. She asked me to move as she has her disabled mother with her and she needs the space. But I explained that I was waiting for my disabled partner, so I needed the space. She then said to me, well, go wait somewhere else. I need this space. My mother is disabled and you're not. Now, I could have handled this more graciously, but instead I laughed. I told her to go away, and then I put my head back in my car and I turned the radio up. And you know what? This set her off. She got out of her car, walked up to my window, called me rude and unsympathetic, accused me of misusing a disabled badge, and demanded that I move. Now, I did not feel any need to explain my situation to this entitled jerk. I just had a truly awful 2 weeks thinking I was going to lose my partner. Now, I don't know why I did it, and I knew this would set her off more, but I was over it because I said smile and I took her picture. And oh boy, did this really set her off. She was absolutely flabbergasted. She whipped out a card that said press on it and told me that she worked for the press, and if I didn't delete the picture, there would be legal action. By this point, I was locked in. I told her, no, I'm gonna keep it, and I took another picture. She then started screaming for security. Everyone was looking our way, and she gave me a crazy smile when security started walking over, as if to say, oh, you're in trouble right now. Security came over, and all they could see was this very angry and rather large lady at my window with me in my car. She demanded they take my phone and delete the photos, and demanded that they tell me to move my car. She was waving her press card around like it was a police badge, but the security had a look on his face that was so unbelievably done with this. They look at me, look at the disabled badge, and then look at her. They told her to leave as she was very clearly harassing me, and that I was doing nothing wrong by parking in a disabled bay, and that I was allowed to take photos of someone harassing me. Well, her crap-eating grin turned into a shocked Pikachu face. She called us all jerks and got back in her car and left. My partner then arrived being escorted by his nurse, and all of us, namely my partner and I, the security and the nurse, had a good chuckle at the entitlement that people have against young people with disabilities. Because honestly, this whole situation was insane to me. Dude, imagine being such an entitled piece of crap that you try to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you in legal trouble if you don't get rid of that picture of me. Personally, I think that's a fantastic way to not only set somebody off, but also to get back at them in a serious way. Because guess what? If they're gonna be nasty to you, especially over something like this, then they should absolutely be prepared for the consequences of being humiliated in the process. And I just love how she's waving around her press badge as if that gives her any kind of authority here. It's like, dude, you of all people should know that that person has every right to take pictures of you if they want to, especially if you're screaming at them through their window. Like, dude, I would be recording you nonstop if you did that to me. Who knows if you would like slash my tires or break a window. So honestly, good for you for getting under this entitled Karen's skin, because she quite literally played herself in the process. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom is incredibly controlling, as I feel she is manipulating me in ways that are very uncomfortable, and I'm now left wondering how I could put up healthy boundaries between the two of us, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I struggle with boundaries and feeling guilty when it comes to my parents, specifically my mom, and I just don't know how to deal with it. For context, I went to America to au pair in July of 2021, and I got back in August of 2023. In the beginning of February 2024, my parents moved to a new house that had an apartment apartment on the property which I then moved into. At the end of February, I reconnected with a guy I knew from 2020 and we started dating, which then led to moving into an apartment together in the beginning of June of 2024. And yes, I know that's quick, but the apartment is an estate that is literally a 3-minute drive from my parents' house. The first couple of months living in the apartment with my boyfriend was tough because of my parents. They struggle with me not living at home anymore and would make a big deal about us only visiting them a couple times a week. They were often rude to myself and my boyfriend, and the atmosphere was very awkward when we visited, and this put a strain on my relationship. Fast forward to now, and my boyfriend and I have been living together for over a year, and we just extended our lease for another 2 years. The situation with my parents has slightly improved, but my mom still gets upset with me if I don't visit her enough. And honestly, I don't even know what enough is because sometimes I go to the house 3 or more times a week for hours at a time. We have also repeatedly invited her over and told her that she's welcome to come to our apartment for coffee or to visit, but she just never does that. She always has some excuse like, you know I'm busy, but then makes me feel bad when I don't make the effort to go there as often as she expects me to. She also gets annoyed and is moody with us if we ask to go visit them at their house and we just so happen to be a few minutes late. But then sometimes we get to the house on time and she's hours late. I'm 26 years old and I feel so guilty for not wanting to visit all the time. I get nervous if I haven't visited for a few days. I get afraid and anxious if I or my boyfriend is running late, and there's a chance we won't get to my parents' house on time because I know she's going to be annoyed, and something will get said to either me, my boyfriend, or the both of us when we see them again. The most recent situation was me switching my location off on the Life360 application that my family all uses, and shortly after moving in with my boyfriend, I switched my location off because I feel like I'm an adult, and my family doesn't have to know my every move. Well, almost a year later, and my mom still reprimands me for it, and said to me last week, "Don't get upset with me. I'm your mom and I just want to know you're safe." I still haven't turned my location back on, and I just don't know how to stand up for myself. So instead, I just tell her I understand. When she gets annoyed or upset about something, I get scared and I feel like a child again. I'm so nervous and afraid of the switch in her tone of voice. So how do I establish healthy boundaries with her and not feel guilty? This is really taking a toll on my mental health, and my anxiety is awful right now. What should I do? Dude, you absolutely need to start standing up for yourself. And it really is as simple as saying no. Like, that's a complete sentence. If she wants you to do something and you don't want to do it, you can say no and that's the end of it. And my God, the fact that she's trying to like follow your every move at the age of 26, you know, with that stupid Life360 app, like absolutely not. That's not going to be okay with me. The second she's trying to be like, I'm just trying to make sure you're safe. Like, that's super toxic and very manipulative. Like, that really does seem like she's trying to like manipulate the situation. And if anything, it really seems like your mom is super controlling. And that's not okay either. Like, that has to stop. Because you've got it right in my opinion. You're an adult and you don't have to deal with this. This is some weird, silly behavior that absolutely is below you. So no, you don't have to put up with this crap, and yes, you absolutely can put up healthy boundaries. And it all begins with saying no and literally standing your ground and not letting them shake you even for a second. An entitled Karen kept trying to jump ahead in the check-in line as she tried to ensure that she would be the first one seen by the doctor today, despite the fact that she never checked in properly, forcing her to wait even longer simply because she was being super selfish. Here's what happened. A few weeks back, I had a morning appointment at my doctor's office, the kind of busy clinic that handles everything from checkups to minor procedures. When you arrive, you're supposed to check in at the front desk and get your name on the list. I mean, this is basic stuff that pretty much anybody could do. I showed up a bit early and was second in line behind the older dude with a cane. We were just standing there making small talk about the weather when this woman in her 30s burst in. She's got this massive purse, she's chatting loudly on her phone like she's the only person in the room. Then out of nowhere, she just walked right up to the desk, cutting in front of us like we were completely invisible. The guy in front of me, being all polite, said, "Ma'am, there is a line." And she hit him with the classic response, "Well, I'm just asking a quick question." But it was anything but quick. She started pulling out all this paperwork, asking about insurance and demanding an earlier appointment. And get this, she wasn't even there for the same doctor. The poor receptionist looked like she was about to lose it. Finally, it was my turn and I stepped up, trying to keep it cool. I said to him, "Hey, just so you know, that woman never checked in. She said she was just asking about something." Then the receptionist blinked at me, nodded, and moved on. Fast forward like 30 minutes and guess who came storming back? Yeah, it's the same woman, furious that other people were getting seen before her. The receptionist calmly told her, "Look, you didn't check in. I thought you were just asking a quick question." Well, she plopped down in the chair fuming. I then got called in right after that, and as I passed her, I couldn't help but smile and say, "Enjoy your wait." Yeah, I love how this one ends. That's really a lot of fun. As someone who has worked at a doctor's office at least once in their life, first of all, that is a job I will never do twice, but also dealing with people like this is so obnoxious because you know for a fact they're just trying to get ahead of everybody else and like cut the line. That's That's their entire goal. They want to ignore the schedule, see the doctor before anybody else, and get out of there in a timely fashion when it's like, wait a second, we literally have a schedule for a reason. So for her to walk up and be like, oh, I'm just asking a quick question, it's no big deal. Like, that is so obnoxious and it's so annoying because it honestly is giving me like flashbacks to when that happened to me. So good for you for pointing out that she didn't check in and basically making her wait longer than she probably wanted to. Because trust me, this entitled Karen absolutely deserves this treatment. Today, I caught a group that was dining and dashing from our restaurant, leaving before they even could pay the $200 tab we had for their table. Things were so bad that they literally came up with every excuse under the sun as to why they didn't pay when they were at the restaurant, leaving me completely flabbergasted by their awful behavior. Here's how it went down. So today, my coworker had a dine and dash on a $200 table. We were just coming off of a super busy dinner service when he noticed that one of his tables was nowhere to be found. He was very panicked, so I helped him go through his receipts to see if maybe he had cashed them out and just forgot, or if maybe they had actually left. There was no cash on the table, no billfold, and no receipts that matched what their total bill was. Since I had just been cut and had no open tables, I decided to check other restaurants and bars on our street and actually found them at a bar not too far away. I had a chat with the bar manager and I showed him proof that we had no payment from them. So he confronted them while I waited outside with security. They eventually came out and tried to argue that their bill was paid for, but I showed them all the same information I showed the bar manager, and one of the ladies tried to justify why they had left, claiming they waited for 30 minutes for their bill, but nobody came to check them out. They apparently tried to get our attention to pay and all this other garbage, but I simply said that theft is theft, and that there were two other servers that could have easily gotten their bill if they were actually finished, instead of leaving without paying. I had even brought them a round of drinks when my coworker was busy with another table, and I had other tables around them, so it's not like they didn't have a server nearby that they could have spoken to. The lady even said, well, you're lucky we came here and didn't just go home, to which I said, oh, well, you're lucky I haven't called my boss or the cops to handle this. It's important to note that this table had made a reservation, so we had their information in our books and could have easily just tracked them down with police assistance. Thankfully, I was able to get back what was owed and bring it back to my coworker after 10 minutes of back and forth between me, the group, and the bar staff and security. They were then promptly kicked out and banned from both the bar and our restaurant. Now, I've had dine and dashes before, but never anything over $100, let alone $200 at most. I'm happy I was able to get the money for my coworker, and also grateful that this group was stupid enough to walk to another bar down the street. I know situations where dine and dashes actually get caught are pretty rare, so I definitely feel like the universe was on our side for this one. Dude, you guys got so lucky. This is crazy. First of all, that's awesome that you literally chased these people down and had the instincts to be like, okay, let me check around locally before I get the cops involved. Because you hit the nail on the head. You easily could have gone to the cops and reported this. Then it would have been a whole world of pain. So when she was trying to be condescending and be like, oh, you're lucky we didn't just go home, it's like, dude, you would have been in even more trouble if you did go home. Like, you're an idiot for thinking that's a good solution here, especially since the restaurant has your information and probably a picture of you from like security footage or something like that. So truly, good for you for putting these idiots in their place, because this level of disrespect is absolutely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for supposedly giving my mother-in-law an attitude when she kicked our stuff out of the house over a silly argument? Because right now she is still trying to hold this over my head, and honestly, I am incredibly frustrated by it. Here's what's going on. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, long distance because of the military. I've lived with his family during this time, renting out a space, and my mother-in-law had really welcomed me and I loved living there. Meanwhile, she's been in the long-term process of divorcing her husband, staying until now for financial reasons. The last months of my time there, I was nearing the end of my pregnancy and my husband was preparing to deploy. It had been determined that I would move back in with my parents with the baby so that my parents could help out with childcare. My mother-in-law offered for me and my husband to keep our stuff in the room upstairs as free storage until he's back from deployment and we get our own place. Now, I offered to pay her for it multiple times, but she declined. When things were getting more heated between her and her husband, approximately 6 weeks before my due date and my husband's deployment date, I asked if she wanted us to move our stuff to an actual storage place, and she said no, our stuff could stay. Well, 2 weeks after a C-section and 36 hours from my husband's deployment, we were about to drive over with the baby to my family's house. Now, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had an ongoing argument, essentially about my father-in-law wanting to move out because they were fighting so much, and my mother-in-law wanting him to stay to help out with a planned surgery she had. My father-in-law also told her that he wasn't going to financially support her unless he was forced to do so, but she asked my husband to take sides with her and force my father-in-law to stay. My husband told her he wasn't comfortable getting in the middle of things, and that's when my mother-in-law became upset and suddenly told us that if he wouldn't help her in this argument, then we should move all of our stuff out as soon as possible because according to her, she might have to sell the house. Now, I expressed that it was a lot for her to to throw on us, mainly me, all of a sudden, and there was no yelling involved. But that night, she sent a lengthy text message about how he and I were extremely selfish and that we were not considering her situation, and then laid out all the kinds of things that she's done for us, with her asking how we could ever treat her this way. I reached out to try and talk, and she texted me she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to forgive us, but would still listen to what we had to say. Later on, she changed her mind and said she didn't want to talk after all. So now our stuff is in storage. I recently stopped by the house to pick up leftover stuff, and prior to going, I had asked, and she had texted that we were welcome to stop by anytime. However, she ignored my greetings when we arrived. She refused to see the baby when I offered, and yelled at me when I told her that I wasn't comfortable going over either, but I just wanted her to have a chance to see the grandbaby. This time, I did yell back about how she was calling me inconsiderate when she was also not considerate of my situation when she dropped the move on us like that. She texted my husband that she's upset with me for my attitude the original night, as well as for this latest visit, and is now claiming that I am emotionally mistreating her. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now this feels incredibly overblown. Dude, your mother-in-law is absolutely playing the victim, and yet she's the one who started all of this. She freaked out and said, "You can either take my side for this argument, or else you're just gonna have to find a new place for your crap." And she only did that because she knows she has some kind of like leverage over you, and that is obnoxious. Like, that is crazy in my opinion. It is super entitled to act that way because she's like, oh, I'm gonna get brownie points by having more people on my side. And your husband's right, dude. Like, why would you ever want to get in the middle of that? I know I definitely wouldn't. That sounds like a nightmare. Like, seriously, this sounds so stupid. Like, how on earth are you supposed to like get involved and fix that situation? So no, you're not the jerk, and you definitely did not give an attitude of any kind. Anything she's trying to claim is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, and I would not pay that lady any attention any longer. An entitled jerk literally cuts in front of an entire line of senior citizens just so he can get his stuff and get out sooner than everybody else. So I decided to get some revenge by literally taking the butane gas he was planning on buying, thus essentially ruining his camping trip altogether. Here's how I did it. So this happened a few days ago at a grocery store. I was waiting patiently in my lane, and beside me was the priority lane for senior citizens. There were a couple of elderly people sitting on the chairs provided specifically for them while waiting for their turn. And this was a pretty normal setup, but this is where some guy just casually walks up and cuts right in front of the seated seniors. I speak up and I say, hey, they're already in line. And this guy, without even looking at me, says, well, I don't see them standing in line though. And he said this really smug and dismissively. The elderly folks looked uncomfortable but didn't want to cause a scene, so I shut up and I just simmered. A few minutes later, we were still in the lanes, and I noticed his cart is stacked with what looks like camping gear, such as a sleeping bag, paper plates, marshmallows, instant noodles, a portable stove, etc. And then that's when I spotted it, a single can of butane gas. And it's right there that I saw an opportunity. The guy's blabbering on the phone, totally distracted. So I casually leaned over, plucked the butane from his cart, and I slid it into mine. And you know what? He didn't notice. He checked out and left, and I paid for my stuff, including his butane, and I walked away. So somewhere out there, this man arrived at his campsite, probably boasting about how smart and quick he is. And when he tried to fire up that portable stove, he had no gas, no hot food, and no hot coffee. Just crunchy noodles and hopefully the sweet taste of consequences. Oh man, this guy's a massive jerk. Imagine being such a big piece of crap that you literally go ahead of senior citizens and try to be like, well, they're not standing in line, so what are they gonna do about it? Like, that takes an entirely different level of like, oh yeah, you're a piece of crap, like an actual piece of crap, and there's just no good excuse. So I'm right there with the original poster. I hope they have the worst camping trip ever after they realize they don't have their butane gas, because this kind of behavior is completely uncalled for, and there literally was no reason to act like that. Am I the jerk for asking my neighbor to move their little farm stand away from my driveway, as it's literally encouraging people to steal from my garden? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my neighbors set up one of those pantries or farm stands where people can take items that they grew in their garden, or grab some pantry stuff or some donated stuff. In theory, it's a great idea, and especially in a time when life in America really sucks and people are struggling to make ends meet, my family included. But the problem is that people started coming into my yard to pick things in my garden. I put up signs saying not to do it. I installed a rabbit fence around my garden. I've even angled a tarp so you can't see what's there from the road. But people just hold their kids over the fence to pick tomatoes and beans or just jump it. I ended up getting into an argument with a lady over it. I yelled, hey, stop, those are not for you to take. But she told her kid to move faster and then tried to run away. I then caught up with her and I asked her what in the world her problem was, and she turned it into some situation where she's like, oh my gosh, how dare you swear in front of my child? Why are you so angry? Are you really that upset about a couple of tomatoes? Well, I said I am upset because you're stealing from me. The very next day, I approached my neighbor. I asked if she could maybe help me move it to the other side of the driveway so it's next to the other neighbor's house instead. They don't have a garden out front, but they said at least not until the end of the season. I asked if they could make a larger sign or talk to people, but please just do something. Well, they were like, can you really not afford to share? And I said that they're not taking my zucchini because they're starving. They're taking my tomatoes because they want them. They said that I'm gonna have to learn to live with it for now, and that we can talk about a solution together that will benefit the whole community afterwards. But I said I do not care about a solution that benefits the whole community. I care about a solution that stops people from stealing from me. So last night it happened again with a man in his 50s. I sprayed his butt with a hose and he started yelling at me, and after a minute or so, the neighbor came out yelling at me too. People have now posted on the neighborhood board to be careful if they come by because I'm a jerk. The neighbor says I'm scaring people away from a community resource, and I told him I'm going to continue to do so until he does something about the thieves who feel entitled to my garden. I feel like I'm losing my mind right now. Am I the jerk for asking them to move it? Am I the jerk for being pissed off that people are stealing from me? Like, this is food for my family and I feel like I'm going crazy. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I need to get some updates because this is kind of a crazy situation. They start off by saying that no, they can't really talk to the cops because apparently where they live, the cops are not going to do anything about this. They basically say they'll be laughed at and that is just not a feasible solution. They also said like a bigger fence is out of the question because they simply cannot afford it. And they said that getting a bigger sign saying, hey, I'm using a lot of pesticides on my food might be their only solution that they're going for. They also say they're going to look for like free fencing on Craigslist or something like that. But regardless, honestly, this would drive me insane. If I had a neighbor who was seriously encouraging this and being like, oh, come on, you have to share. This is for the community. It'd be like, dude, yeah, your crap's for the community, but my garden is for my family. It's not meant for anyone to walk up and take as they please, dude. You can't just steal from me and expect me to be okay with it. Like, what's going on right now? This is so dumb. If I was in this situation, I would find some friends and I would move it myself in the middle of the night. Like, I would get that as far away from my garden as possible because these neighbors are essentially like encouraging this kind of behavior. They're saying, yes, this is okay and we want you to have your garden stolen from. And that is unacceptable. That really sucks. So hopefully some kind of solution comes down the pipeline for you because this sounds absolutely obnoxious. An entitled Karen demands that I change plane seats with her husband, all because apparently my face was scaring her kid, leaving me baffled at how rude someone could actually be. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old male and I'm visiting Boston for the week, and I just got off a 5-hour flight a few hours ago and I'm still kind of shaken up and a little bit upset. For a bit of context, I had a procedure a few months ago for an aggressive cancer that left me with what is basically a hole the size of a pool ball where my right eye used to be. I typically don't wear any facial coverings or prosthetics to cover it because of how recent this was, and how I'm still attempting to come to terms with the fact that I'm basically missing the upper half of the right side of my face. Anyways, on this flight, I picked a window seat like I always do, and I settled in. And not long after, a woman boards with her husband and her son, who is maybe around 4 or 5 years old. Her husband has a seat in the row behind me, and she and her son have the middle and aisle seats in my row. Well, the moment her son saw me, he visibly recoils. I'm quite used to occasional glances and stares, as it really doesn't bother me. But whenever I notice children looking scared at me, that always kind of hurts. I know kids don't have filters, I understand that. But I was expecting his mother to just tell him to knock it off or something like that. Instead, she asked me, oh, can you switch seats with my husband? My son's not exactly the most comfortable sitting next to you. I apologize. He's kind of scared here, so it would really help us out. Well, when she said that, I told her no. I would not be changing my seats because I wanted my window seat. To which she asked me a few more times before giving up and saying something along the lines of, seriously, he's only a child. I just thought you might be a little more sensitive. And you know what? That really pissed me off because I am sensitive. I've been sensitive about my face since the day I got the surgery. I've avoided photos, mirrors, and public settings all too often. But apparently, I'm not sensitive enough for choosing my own comfort over a random child's. To be honest, for a while after that, I had to hold in my tears because my disfigurement embarrasses me. And oftentimes, I'm so embarrassed I don't go out much, and this reminded me exactly why. I understand a child is a child and people will stare, but I just hate how she treated me, as if I was doing something wrong by just existing. Anyways, I'm now in Boston, so yay, I guess. And I just hope that more parents would teach their kids that when they see someone who looks different, they're still normal people inside, and they don't deserve any different treatment even if they did look normal. Wow, the mom of this story is a piece of garbage. Like, seriously, dude. She literally looked at the original poster and was like, my kid's afraid of your face. Could you please move your seat for my husband? It's like, holy crap, what is that sentence right now? She literally is like the worst person on the planet. Like, if you wanted to sit as a family, then maybe book as a family. Plan in advance and find that window seat that you're so desperately trying to find. But for her to be like, oh yeah, your face is disfigured and it's scaring my kid. Move please, my kid can't handle it. What, are you not doing it? Oh, come on, be more sensitive. It's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. That's so rude and disgusting, it's not even funny. Because I guarantee you, if she was in your shoes, she would would not be feeling good about this at all. So yeah, this lady was a complete Karen, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, because you absolutely did not deserve that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Did I overreact for leaving my cousin's wedding after she essentially seated me at the single kids table? Because now, as a result, I'm being called dramatic for walking out, despite the fact that I did it quietly and with grace. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I was invited to my cousin's wedding this weekend. I RSVP'd months ago, and I made it clear that I'd be coming solo since I just got out of a long-term relationship. When I got there, I was shocked to see that I had been seated at a table with literal teenagers. These were her younger cousins, and some of them were 13 to 16 years old. I double-checked the seating chart, and yes, I was at table 11, meant for singles and teenagers. Everyone else my age was seated together, mostly couples or just friends. I felt so out of place and embarrassed, it was awful. I tried to tough it out for dinner, but when speeches started, a few teenagers at the table were goofing off and talking over everything. So I got up, I politely said goodbye to my aunt, and then I just quietly left. Well, the next day, my cousin texted me saying that she noticed I left rudely, and that I could have handled it with grace instead of storming off. But I said I didn't storm off. I just didn't feel like being treated like a child for being single. And now the family group chat is buzzing, and I'm being called overdramatic. So did I overreact by walking out and not wanting to stick around? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way I would ever stay at that wedding. Like, why on earth would you put single people with the teenagers? Like, dude, put them with everybody else. Just shuffle them in the mix. There's no reason to be like, wow, you're single, so that basically makes you a child. See you later. It's like, dude, what's going on? This is so rude. And that falls on your cousin. Like, your cousin's a moron for having it set up like that. So you know what? No, I don't think you're the jerk, and I don't think you overreacted. Because this idiot literally disrespected you first. And if I was in your shoes, I would not put up with that for a second. Am I the jerk for defending my friend's reputation as a fitness coach after someone passed out in her class for really dumb reasons? Here's what's going on. So my friend recently became a fitness coach at a new spin studio in town, and she was really nervous that no one would show up to her first class. The studio offers a free first class. So we both texted a bunch of people to help fill it up, and it worked. And we ended up booking the entire class. One of the people who showed up was a 34-year-old male who we will call Mike for the sake of the story. He's one of her friends and is on a big weight loss journey. He's already lost 50 pounds and still has a ways to go. And I really admire how committed he is. Halfway through the class, I heard some commotion and someone screamed. I was across the room and couldn't see what was happening, but it turns out that Mike had fainted and fell and hit his head. He came to pretty quickly, and the ambulance arrived in about 10 to 15 minutes. He kept telling everyone that he was fine and that he had been doing a 24-hour water fast, which is probably why he passed out. Later, he said a doctor saw him for less than 2 minutes and just told him to go home and eat something. Well, after that, people started saying my friend's class was so intense that someone passed out. It scared off some people, but it also attracted some hardcore gym people who wanted to try this out. Well, when I heard this, I got kind of defensive, and I explained that her class isn't extreme or unsafe. It was just a one-time situation with someone doing an extreme diet. One of our mutual friends thought I was downplaying my friend's skills or saying that she doesn't teach a good class, but that wasn't what I meant at all. I just don't want people to be scared off for the wrong reason. So I'm now wondering if I'm the jerk for trying to explain what really happened, because right now I'm still incredibly annoyed. Okay, dude, this is so stupid. Anyone trying to be like, oh yeah, this class is so hard. There's someone that passed out. Like, this is too much. They are literally kidding themselves, and they're being very stupid. Think about this for a second. The only reason Mike passed out is because he went to go work out after not having any water for 24 hours. Like, dude, what's going on? This has nothing to do with a spin class and everything to do with, like, literally this guy not being smart about this. Who would go work out after not drinking water for 24 hours? And sure, there's probably some kind of exception, and please let me know. But like, dude, there's no way I would do that. I'm gonna hydrate ahead of time, dude. Like, I'm not gonna want to get hurt. And going 24 hours without water and then going to a spin class is like a recipe to pass out, dude. So no, you're not the jerk for defending your friend. If anything, Mike should absolutely step up and be like, wait guys, this is not anyone's fault but mine. Because this literally made your friend look bad, and he has an obligation to try and set the record straight. My roommate moves in her younger sister without asking me first, who literally is mooching off of us for electricity, water, and food. But now my roommate's freaking out after I refused to pay the full half of rent like she expected, as I chose instead to split my rent up 3 ways and only pay for a third of what is usually owed, leading to my roommate literally saying I should pay for her sister, despite the fact that I literally never wanted her here in the first place. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live with one roommate who I will call Rose for the sake of the story, and recently I traveled for a family get-together. When I came back, I found someone else in the apartment, and it turns out it was Rose's younger sister. I asked her what was going on, and she just casually said to me, "Oh, she just came from
from the village and will be staying here for a few days while she applies for a job. I asked her why she didn't let me know beforehand, and she just said, well, I thought you wouldn't mind. Well, fast forward, and those few days have turned into what feels like forever. Her sister's always home doing absolutely nothing. No job hunting, no chores around the house, just using up our space, our electricity, the water, and the food. So she is basically just moved in. When the rent was due, I divided it into 3 and I sent my third of it. Rose then called me saying I didn't send my full rent, but I told her that I divided it into 3 and that this is my part. Well, when I said that, she flipped out. She said her sister isn't working yet and that I've been working for years, so I should be able to afford the full half. She said that I should overlook it and that I should render a little help. Well, I told her point blank, you didn't ask me before bringing your sister in, and now you expect me to pay her rent too? Absolutely not. Well, she then called me wicked and stormed off, which honestly is not surprising in the slightest. Dude, this is so obnoxious because you are absolutely in the right, dude. Rose's younger sister has to pay rent if they're going to be staying here long term. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And the fact that Rose is trying to be like, wait a second, what do you mean? You need to overlook this and render some help. It's like, no, dude, I don't have to do anything. You didn't discuss it ahead of time, and now suddenly this is my problem? Like, no, I don't think so. If you're going to be using the water and electricity and the food and basically everything else besides paying rent, then congratulations, you've moved in and now you got to pay rent. Because otherwise, this is just completely unfair. My roommate is a thief and stole my jewelry and other people's jewelry in the common rooms that we lived in. So I decided to get some petty revenge by signing her up for anything and everything I could possibly find using her email, forcing her to deal with a mountain of spam all the way until she graduated. Here's how I did it. So when I was in college, I shared a room with a thief who stole jewelry. For a bit of backstory, I lived on a 32-person floor setup in 4 8-person suites that shared a single common study room where each person had an assigned desk. When my roommate was away for a long weekend, the university workmen did some maintenance and moved the desks in the study room. When they moved my roommate's desk, the workmen found a box they turned into me because they thought that it was hers. It contained jewelry, including 2 pairs of earrings I thought I had lost, as well as a bracelet and a necklace owned by 2 other suite mates. When my roommate returned, I asked her about the box, and she claimed no knowledge of it and claimed that none of the jewelry was hers. Now, I couldn't prove that she took the jewelry, so instead I decided to get some petty revenge by literally using her school email anytime I was asked for an email address for the next 2 years. Interested in volunteering to feed the poor? Well, she got signed up by email. Maybe there was a political newsletter that I wanted to sign up for? Well, guess what? It's happening through her email again. Interested in next year's a cappella group tryouts? As you can probably guess, yes, I signed up with her email again, along with every website that asked for an email in the slightest. My boyfriend also signed her up for sketchy websites and job searches. It isn't illegal and she couldn't prove I was doing it, but man, I know it was annoying. Plus, she couldn't even get a new university email, so I know she was stuck with the spam all the way until she graduated. Okay, first of all, I can't stand people who steal, so getting revenge like this, in my opinion, is so well deserved. Because it's pretty obvious she had a box full of other people's jewelry, like seriously, come on. The chances of someone planting that there and be like, oh, I'm gonna hide it in this random desk is so slim to none that honestly, it makes me think that no, this is probably not someone else's doing, and instead it was your roommate who's just a straight up thief. So good for you for getting revenge because this person absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for moving across the country for a better job? Even though my legal guardian says I'll make her and my stepdad homeless if I do so. Because right now I feel really torn and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 19-year-old male and I was recently offered a full-time job on a military base in South Carolina. It pays $21 an hour and comes with full benefits. I currently work retail in Michigan at $13 an hour, so this is a major upgrade, both financially and for my future. Now, here's the issue. I still live with my legal guardian who's a 50-year-old female and her husband who's my stepdad who's 54 years old. She got full guardianship of me when I was a kid after my biological father passed away and my biological mother gave up her rights. She's not related to me by blood at all. My guardian and stepdad are financially struggling. He's on dialysis 5 days a week and she does Instacart for extra income. She says she can't work a regular job because she needs to be home for his treatments. And as a result, I've been helping cover major household expenses. My income has basically become part of their survival plan. When I told her about the job offer and my plans to move, she immediately said, well, if we end up homeless, it's gonna be your fault. She accused me of being selfish and abandoning them. She also flipped out when I told her I'd be moving in with my sister, someone I've recently reconnected with, and who offered to let me stay with her family until I find my own place. Now, to clarify, my sister and mom don't have a good relationship, or any relationship now. You see, when I was 13 years old, my sister's biological father bought her a car, and her husband decided to move to South Carolina. My sister tried to convince me to move to South Carolina with her because mom is a narcissist and incredibly
toxic. And you know what? I didn't believe her then. But if I did move with her to South Carolina, then mom could have reported her for kidnapping. Ever since the move, my mom and my sister are estranged. My sister even ignored mom while visiting for my high school graduation. My mom despises her and sees me staying with her as a complete betrayal. So at this point, I feel torn. I do care about them and I've been helping financially, but I don't want to stay stuck in a dead-end job forever. I offer to continue sending them money once I'm financially stable, but that apparently isn't enough. What should I do? Okay, dude, there's no way you're even remotely responsible for these people. First of all, they're not your guardian anymore because you're an adult. You're 19 years old, you can make your own decisions. So if you want to move in with your sister, then guess what? You can do that. You can get your stuff, get it all together, and then leave. And if your mom and your stepdad go homeless, that's not on you. That is on them and only them. Like, this is so weird that you're being expected to like support them in some kind of way when it's like, no, you shouldn't have to do that. And I'm not being insensitive to their situation. It's just like, dude, you can't be expected to handle all that at once. You're only 19. So if you want to move to South Carolina and get that job, then in my opinion, you absolutely should do it. It comes with full benefits, you're getting a massive raise, and from the sounds of it, it seems like you might have a good future in that job. And the fact that these people are trying to be like, oh, you're abandoning us, I can't believe you. Like, that really sounds like awful manipulation, and you just don't deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for apparently letting my sister go thirsty through an entire meal, all because I didn't buy her a cocktail that she never asked me to order? As she claimed, I should have just known and bought it for her anyways, despite the fact that she said no to the waitress earlier in the night. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister does this thing where she'll just say something that she wants with the expectation that someone will do it for her. For example, if she wants the air conditioning turned on, instead of asking someone to turn it on for her, she'll just keep repeating things like, oh, isn't it super warm in here? Does anyone else feel really hot? Or she'll say, I heard that today is going to be a super hot day. And if someone asks her if she wants the air conditioning turned on, she'll reply by saying, oh, no, I'm good. But if you're hot, then you should turn it on. Anyways, last weekend it was my birthday, so my family and I went out to celebrate. During the meal, she kept making comments implying that she wanted another cocktail, but she simply wouldn't order it. The waitress even came by and asked if we needed anything, but she didn't order a drink even when we all did. I could tell she was agitated at that point, but it was my birthday, so I just ignored her. When we all got home, she got really snippy and said that it was super rude that we all got our own drinks and didn't order one for her. But my brother and I brought up the fact that she said no when the waitress asked, but she said that wasn't the issue. In her opinion, we should have known to order her a drink too, because everyone else got one, and the fact that we let her go thirsty was inconsiderate, and that in the future we ought to order drinks for her too. She also said that she was only saying no to the waitress because her family should have taken care of her. And yeah, those are her words and not mine. Well, the three of us have been kind of arguing back and forth about it, and I'm just so tired of fighting. So I wanted to get some more opinions on whether or not I should have ordered her a drink as well, because at this point I'm honestly so annoyed. Dude, I hate people who act like this because no, what you say is absolutely what I'm gonna go by. There is no double speak going on here, dude, especially when it comes to alcohol. If you say, no, I don't want another drink, then guess what? I'm not gonna order you another drink. Like, if you really want to get something, either order it yourself or ask someone to buy it for you. Be an adult, dude, like, grow up. This passive aggressive like, oh, you can have one if you want, I don't know, maybe I should get one too. Like, that way of talking around the issue is so annoying to me. It's like, dude, just be direct, just tell me what you want. I cannot guess what's in your head and I'm not gonna read your mind. And I 100% agree with the original poster. She said no to the waiter, so that should have informed pretty much every decision you made from there on out. So on that note, no, you're absolutely not the jerk. Your sister's an idiot for acting that way, and that is honestly not something you should deal with. My boss demands that I don't use my phone even if I'm just trying to check the time. So I decided to get some petty revenge and some malicious compliance by going out of my way to find a cheap pocket watch and use that in front of him to try and trick him into thinking I'm using my phone. And I'm honestly so satisfied by the results because this boss absolutely lost his mind on me. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a while ago, but it's my favorite and most genius malicious compliance I've ever committed. Okay, so I was working for a site excavation company as a laborer on a pipe crew. I'm not a phone at work kind of guy, and I don't like texting all day while at work, and I'm not that involved in social media, so all I would use it for was to pull it out of my pocket real quick to check the time. The foreman I was working with said I can't be on my phone while on the clock. I told him I'm not on my phone and that I'm just looking at the time, but he responded that if I wanted to look at the time, then I should get a watch. So I said to myself, okay, no problem. So I went to like 5 pawn shops until I saw a relatively cheap pocket watch, and I bought the crap out of it. The very next workday, I overly exaggerated my efforts to look at the time, making it look like I was trying to hide phone use. And of course, my foreman jumped right down my throat. I told you no phone, even to check the time. But I just looked at him and I said, oh, it's not my phone, it's my new pocket watch. And I was smiling ear to ear. When I showed it to him, he was seething leaving and he just walked away. And he never bothered me about anything else ever again, because this clearly got under his skin in a way that I absolutely was hoping for. Oh man, that's really funny. I don't care who you are. The original poster went out of his way to find a cheap pocket watch, and I'm imagining the kind on a chain that's attached to like your vest that some like 1800s train conductor would use. Like, that's hilarious in my opinion. I love that. So yeah, this is definitely some serious malicious compliance, because this guy definitely did not see that coming. And that makes this entire scenario even funnier. My entitled coworker literally tries to sabotage my job by making me look lazy while I'm trying to be trained for the job. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally forcing her to train me in a way that she definitely did not want to do. Here's what happened. Several years ago, I was trying to learn a new role at work. The problem was that my training solely depended on someone who really didn't want to train me. For context, she was kind of an awful person and would intentionally try to sabotage people to make herself look better. When I would try to initiate shadowing her, she would, in a falsely friendly voice, chirp out, "Oh, I don't have anything for us to work on right now, but I will be sure to let you know when I do." However, days later, she would then complete projects that she could have been using to train me with. This went on for a few weeks, and so I gave her a call to follow up. Clearly, this time our boss was sitting in the room with her, because then, speaking loudly and slowly to me like I was a howler monkey instead of a coworker, she says, "Now you know I told you that anytime you are free, that you need to come to my office so that I can train you." So not only am I not getting the training I'm supposed to be getting, but now she's making me look irresponsible and lazy. She had management charmed and I was a chicken, so there was no seeking direct help from them. So instead, I decided to put matters into my own hands. The next morning, I came in extra early, conveniently borrowed a chair from my boss's office so he would know what I was planning to do, and plopped it right down next to her desk and waited for her to arrive. When she came in, I gave her the biggest smile and I said, "I have great news. My supervisor turned me loose and said that I was free to shadow you all day, every day for the foreseeable future. So I figured I would go ahead and be ready to go so I don't miss a thing. Isn't that awesome?" Well, this woman was completely horrified, and then was pretty icy to me for several days after that, because I not only interrupted her paid online shopping time, but also thwarted her attempts to keep me from learning anything. And while it has been a while since I did this, I can honestly say that it is one of the most deliciously petty things I've ever done in my life. Oh man, I love this so much, dude. First off, I can't stand coworkers who are like, "Oh my gosh, don't worry, I will train you anytime." But then after the fact, go to management and be like, "Oh wow, I told you you can come by and you didn't do it. You're supposed to be here on your free time, wow." Like, she made you look incredibly lazy in a way that is super inappropriate. You're not lazy, you literally were just following her direction. And she still tried to like ruin your job. Like, that is so annoying. So I love the way you handled this, because this lady was absolutely trying to ruin your job. A pair of entitled boomers insult my girlfriend by making fun of her tattoos, causing my girlfriend to cry as we're leaving the restaurant we were eating at. But instead of putting up with that, I decided to go back and give these idiots a piece of my mind, shutting them down right then and there, and proving once and for all that no, they can't treat people like that and expect to get away with it. Here's what happened. Okay, this just happened a couple of hours ago, and I'm honestly still in disbelief. My girlfriend and I were at a seafood restaurant with long booths and tables close together. She has a lot of visible tattoos on both arms, and all of them are really professionally done. There was an older couple sitting next to us, and I politely nodded when we sat down, and they nodded back. And the couple was probably in their late 60s. We finished our meal, and I went back to the counter to get a to-go box. As I walked back to our table to get our stuff, my girlfriend stormed out of the restaurant, clearly fuming about something. Now, I was just confused, so I joined her outside and I asked her what happened. She then told me that the man looked over at her and then said to his wife, "I'm really glad that we don't have those. They look terrible." And the wife nodded in agreement. I almost questioned if she heard it right, because it seemed so outlandish, but I knew for a fact she would not have reacted that way for no reason. She was almost tearing up as we drove home, and we only live like maybe 1 to 2 minutes from the restaurant. When we got home, I had fully processed what happened, so I told her to just go inside, and I turned around and went right back to the restaurant. The couple was still sitting there finishing their food. I walked in and I stared at them, and then I walked back outside and I waited. As they walked out the door, they kind of nodded at me again, and I'd said something like, "Excuse me, were you two having a conversation about my girlfriend's tattoos while she was standing there?" Now, I just knew they would deny it, but no, the old man said, "Yeah, I told my wife that I'm glad you don't have tattoos like that. They look terrible." Now, I'm never confrontational, but at this moment, I lost it. I said some truly heinous crap to them. I told them to go F themselves, and that it's none of their business what her tattoos look like. They started walking away, but I just kept going. I then told them that the Grim Reaper's coming for them soon. I called his wife a fat jerk, and I told her to keep waddling away. He pulled a free speech card, and I told him to enjoy that free speech for the last few million miserable years of his life. I just kept reminding them that they were going to pass away soon as they got into their car. Now, I never yelled, but I made sure they realized they can't be crappy, judgmental people without being called out. I know I went too far with my words, but I have zero regrets. I still can't believe it happened or that I confronted them about it, because these people really think they can say whatever they want, and honestly, screw that. I refuse to put up with that ever again. Oh man, good for you, dude. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can understand you feeling bad about snapping at these people, but these people probably say crappy stuff like that out loud all the time, and right to people's faces probably constantly. So the fact that you bounced it right back at them was probably a shock to the system. So seriously, good for you for shutting them down, because these people absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance is constantly making fun of me because of my weight, and literally only proposed to me so that I would lose weight in time for our marriage. So now, after all the countless problems he's caused for me, I've decided to give him back the ring and even reconsider our relationship, putting me in a corner that honestly I never thought I would be put into. Here's what's going on. So my fiance and I have been together for a little more than 3 years now. Now, things weren't always good, but we tried to fix them and changed a lot. For context, he has enormous image issues and used to make fun of me to try and get a laugh. For example, he would make fun of my accent, my clothing style, my body weight, I mean pretty much anything when we were together. But in public, everything was completely fine. Now, I was at fault too, because I am 3 years younger than him, but I've also changed a lot. I used to shout a lot in public spaces, was always on my phone, made fun of him in public for retaliation, etc. But all of these things I've changed completely. I had told him a couple of times that if he continued with the bad humor, I would end up detached and not really want to be talking to him. I mean, why talk to someone that only makes you feel like an idiot or makes fun of you? And he did change for a while and stuff was heading in a normal direction. Well, a month ago, we put down our accounts and plans for the future, and he proposed to me and I said yes, and we began gathering money for a house. Now, when it comes to me, I am rather principled, but the only thing I have troubles with is my weight. I used to work out a lot, and I was around 85 kilograms when I met him. Unfortunately, after stressful 12-hour shift days in a sketchy company for a year and an ACL surgery in the second year that made me quit the working out thing, I gained a lot of weight, and I think I weighed at around 122 kilograms at my maximum weight gain. He discussed concerns about my health, even though all my tests came back fine, which is after the doctors told me to lose some weight. He then started measuring my sugar levels and would steal snacks from my hands and highlighted the fact that they weren't healthy and was bad for me, and would say that I was losing my goal and that he wanted to fix it by highlighting the bad stuff. There were nights that he pissed me off so much that I went to bed without food and he would feel really bad, and he would not eat as well just to try and make it fair for the both of us. But then the humiliation started again. I couldn't talk about anything. I would try to talk about the news or something interesting, and he would just say something like, "Oh, since when do you read the news?" Or I would doll up and wear my Crocs that have some fake gold butterflies in them as charms, and he would say to me, "I'm not taking you out wearing these tacky butterfly Crocs. Take the butterflies out or put something else on." And it would be stuff like that. And when I would be sad about it, we would play it out as fun. And he would say to me, "If I can't mess with you and make fun of you, then who will?" And he was constantly doing that to me. Well, yesterday was my breaking point. My week was chaotic and I was really stressed out and I wanted a change, so I went and braided my hair. And I added in some fake white hair that I braided in. And I also added some gold loops because I found it funky and I just thought it was cool. But when I went to him to ask if he likes it, the first thing out of his mouth was to say to me, "I bet you only like the gold loops because they're so tacky. There's no way the stylist put it there by herself." Now, I was so hurt by this. I clamped my mouth shut and my eyes watered. His face fell and tried to gently hold me and told me that he was making fun of me and that it was just humor. But I didn't say anything and I just got in the car. He had also gotten a haircut and asked me if I liked it, and I told him it was hideous. And yeah, it was petty of me, I know. But when I said that, he went full berserk mode. I told him that I only said this so he sees how he made me feel earlier. But this just started an entirely new argument. He claimed that I was really detached from him since last year, and I didn't talk much or continue any meaningful conversations. And he was actually fearing if my depression was coming back. And for reference, I was like this after my ACL surgery, and I worked it out with a therapist. So I told him to give me a couple of days to figure out why, because I've also noticed it around him. I went out with my best friends and I told them about the situation, and they told me I was fine with them, and they didn't see anything abnormal about me, and that they didn't think my depression was back. So I thought about it, and I figured out with myself that it was because he was humiliating me. When I wanted to talk to him, I always thought first that he was going to make fun of me, and I was just completely detached. So I went to talk to him and I told him about it, that I thought it was with him because he always makes fun of me, and I can't even be myself around him due to his image issues. That I talked about it with my girlfriends and they said I was fine. And when I said this, he went berserk again and started shouting at me about trust, all because I had talked about what he had told me with my friends, and that these issues are for us to solve and not for a third person. I backed up my girlfriends and I told him that's how girls work. We talk about stuff and we try to be better. He then told me that he would try to change since it was that, and I agreed to try and talk again, even with my fear of humiliation hanging because I wanted to work it with him. He also said that for him to change, he wanted me to be more principled with myself and to change as well, that I still hadn't lost the weight I wanted, and that he didn't want to give me an engagement ring if I had not fixed that. That way I could also be principled with our future children. He claims that an individual who is principled with himself can be a good example for kids, but he gave it to me anyways because he saw I wanted one and was looking at them, and he just had faith that I would change, and I just simply didn't. Meanwhile, I started going back to the gym and I managed to drop to 115 kilograms, but at my own pace. I'm not the type of woman who likes to miss meals or stuff like that. Like, I'm still gonna eat junk food when I want to, and then I'll hit the gym to try and counteract it. And I explained to him that my weight loss journey is mine and mine only, and I will do whatever I want with it, and I will lose the pound when I want to. In fact, I told him lately that I had actually lost 2 kilograms due to me sticking to my diet for us, so that we can have kids and have a house when we're ready. But when I said this, he just coldly told me that he's not ready for children. Well, the fury inside of me I felt was completely insufferable. I told him that I had asked him 3 times before accepting the ring if he is sure that it's me he wants through my ups and downs. But then he said that he didn't mind my weight, he just wanted me to be healthy. He said that he likes that I'm curvy, and since I'm healthy, everything's gonna be fine. He told me he said that in order for me to lose more for my own good, and in the heat of the argument, he told me that he didn't like my fat hanging out, and that he had tried to be good and also used bad words to make me understand that, and that I was in my own world just not listening. He also said I was gonna be dead at 40, and that my kids, if we have any, would be crying over it. He also said that if I fell down, it would take 3 people to get me back up. Now, when he said all this, I froze calmly and I took the engagement ring off and I just gave it back to him. The argument slowed down and his eyes went wide. I told him to see a therapist and that when I look in the mirror, I see a successful 25-year-old. I have a good heart, I've got great looks, and I've got a stable job. I see a warrior that fought through depression and a bad household, but despite that, I stuck to my values. I have a great support system and I don't need him. I can find other dudes if I want, and I have plenty after me. I said that I'm sick of him stealing my joy because of his misery, and that he can find someone thinner to be with and more to his character to parade around, since his image is a bigger priority than our relationship and my looks just completely humiliate him. Well, he then apologized and told me to seek out marriage counseling because he wants us to work out, and he agreed to therapy himself, but I told him he's a clown and to go for someone else, and that I would not be exposed to his idiotic ways to a third person, that I am done because he is a piece of garbage that just proposed to me to lose weight and wanted a better, thinner version of me, but not me for who I am. He tried to give me my ring back and told me it was mine, that he loved me and just didn't want me to die and leave him because he would be heartbroken, that he never wanted to steal my spirit, and that he will let me wear what I want and that he will change. Well, I dropped the ring on the car seat and I told him I thought this ring was a sham and that this is not a token of our love, that it's lost value and I just don't want it anymore. I then closed the door and I left him behind. Now, we haven't broken up yet officially because I really just want to think about it, and in the meantime, I've talked with my family about it and I've just been ignoring his messages. Today though, I answered that I want some time to think it over just to see if I want to continue this relationship. Well, ever since then, he's been bombarding me with calls, and my own family is telling me that I overreacted, saying that they see he loves me and that he wants a better future for me, and that if he minded my weight, then he would have just broke up with me and left it at that. He just doesn't have a good way of showing it, and that I should be patient when he learns. They even said that I did a bad thing and that I shouldn't have given the ring back. So now, with all things considered, I feel really guilty and torn, and I don't know if I overreacted and probably ruined my engagement. What should I do? Okay, this is just my opinion, but the fact that this guy is trying to be like, oh yeah, I only got engaged to you because you're fat and I want you to lose weight is insane in my opinion. That is a crazy precedent to set. Also, the jokes and the making fun of you and all the other stuff on top of that, like, I gotta be honest, to the original poster, this does not sound like a good person. This does not sound like a healthy partner or anybody who cares about you in the slightest. Seriously, this is some messed up stuff. And the fact that he's trying to spin this into like, oh baby, you don't understand. I'm so sorry for the things I did for the 12th time. I'm gonna change this time though, I swear. Like, that just seems completely dishonest and so manipulative. And it's crazy to me that your family's also turning on you about this. Like, you would think they would be supportive and be like, oh yeah, this guy's a piece of crap. Because I can confidently say, yeah, this guy's a piece of crap. It doesn't sound like he cares about you. It really just doesn't seem like he gives a flying crap about your well-being. And instead, he wants to make fun of your weight and all this other crap. So no, you're not overreacting by giving the ring back, because in my opinion, you can find a much better partner than this. Because based on what you've described, this guy does not sound like a good person in the slightest. An entitled Karen thinks that she can ignore the check-in rules, as she literally tries to rush everybody onto the plane, all because she's sick of waiting. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened on my return flight from last year. We were waiting at the check-in counter when we were told that all families with children should go to the front so that they can get checked in first. The idea behind this was so that the children could all sit with their parents in the same area. That way they could all just stay together entirely. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad idea actually. And this really should be done more often on other airlines. So the other passengers let the families with children go to the front, and everything is going smoothly. Well, at least until a woman behind us starts staring at my partner's back and gesticulating wildly every time she feels that my partner is vaguely looking in her direction. This goes on for a few minutes until she finally stomps to the front and starts talking to my partner.
Go to the front right now, otherwise we'll be waiting here forever.
My partner then calmly explains to her that families with children go first, and not everyone has checked in yet. She stomps back to her place in the row for exactly 2 minutes. Then she comes back to the front, taps my partner rather rudely on the shoulder, and says, "Are you finally going to the front? I don't want to wait here forever." At that point, I couldn't help but laugh, and I said to her, "I'm pretty sure that the last row of the plane will arrive in Vienna at the same time as the others, so calm down and just wait until it's your turn." Well, I've never seen anyone so surprised by my retort. When the guy behind me said that he didn't think this airport was so great and that you had to see everything here, the old bag finally shut up. I mean, did she finally realize that she would have to spend the entire flight between screaming children if she had gotten her way? Because maybe we should have just granted her wish and let her go ahead. That's the kind of suffering she definitely deserves to deal with. Yeah, honestly, I can't stand when people are really impatient about getting on the plane. Because guess what, Karen? It's not going to start until all of us are on the plane. You rushing to get to the front and sit there is not going to make anything go faster. So yeah, I love the way you guys handle this, because this lady definitely needed to be shut down. My job demands that I use the company car for any work-related outings. But unfortunately, this backfired in a way that literally left me stranded, forcing my manager to come to grips with this stupid rule. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work for a small regional sales company where part of my job involved visiting clients across the state. I had my own reliable car, I kept it in great condition, and I always preferred using it for work trips. It was more comfortable, it had better mileage, plus I knew it inside and out. Well, one day the new manager came in with a bunch of new rules. One of them being that all employees must use the company car for any work-related travel, no exceptions. I explained that I preferred my car, and I even offered to waive mileage reimbursement, but no, policy is policy. So the next time I traveled for work, I grabbed the keys for the company car, which is a crusty old Ford Focus with 170,000 miles, literally held together by zip ties and corporate optimism. It barely had any AC, the brakes squealed like a banshee, and it reeked of stale coffee and despair. About an hour into my 3-hour drive to a client, I hear a loud clunk. Then there's smoke, and then the car just dies on me. Literally on a remote highway too at that, with no signal. I end up walking nearly 2 miles to get to a bar of service, and I call it in for a tow. Now, the client meeting was obviously missed, and the company had to reschedule, reimburse the client for the inconvenience, and cover the tow and the repairs. And trust me, the manager wasn't pleased. I then reminded him that I had offered to take my own car because I trusted it. Well, after that, the mandatory company car rule got quietly retired, and I never had to hear about it ever again. Oh man, you handled this way better than I did, dude. I would be super pissed off at my company if that happened to me. Like, I would be destroying their inboxes with complaints and all kinds of grievances, dude. Like, seriously, you got stuck in the middle of nowhere on a remote highway, forcing you to walk 2 miles to get reception, dude. Like, there's no way I would be okay with that. I would be so pissed off, because this is literally not your fault. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my more fit coworker by literally just being stronger than him? Because right now he's very embarrassed and is currently saying that I'm intentionally humiliating him, despite the fact that I most definitely am not. Here's what's going on. So I'm a 25-year-old camp counselor who also works with elementary school boys. To give some context, I'm an incredibly short and fat man. Like, I'm under 5 feet tall and around 200 pounds. This does not affect my ability to do my job. I'm just as active with any other counselor, and I work with the kids just as much. I also have to get blood tests done for different reasons, and there's never really any concern when it comes to my cholesterol or insulin level or anything weight related. And I'm just saying this so you have some context for my general appearance and the fact that no, my weight doesn't affect my health or my level of activity. Now, my co-counselor is a guy around my age who is, I think, a baseball player, and we could not look more different. He's got more than a foot of height on me and probably about the same weight, so he's obviously more visibly fit. He brags a lot about how even after we spend all day chasing kids in the sun, he still gets to go to the gym for a couple of hours. Well, Well, the issue is when it comes to actually having to use strength practically, I outdo him every single time. I'm not trying to do it intentionally, but when we have to carry 20 kids' backpacks and he can only handle 8 while I have 12, or when he can't open a jar, or when we have to lug heavy equipment and he's huffing and puffing while I'm not even having a problem, it becomes pretty evident that I'm just stronger than him, at least for stuff like that. I'm sure he could outbench me or whatever proper fitness stuff is, and trust me, he crushes me when we play sports with the kids. I'm talking more specifically about that kind of work. The issue is that the kids have started to pick up on the fact that I am the strong counselor. If they want to be picked up, or they can't open something in their lunch, or they just want to break from carrying their bags on a hike, they come to me. And apparently my co-counselor complained to one of the other counselors that I'm allegedly embarrassing him because a guy like me shouldn't be able to be stronger than him. That counselor then came to me and told me I should tone it down because it can be hard for someone who prides themselves on being an athlete to be worse at something than a guy like me. But I straight up told him there's no way I'm gonna do my job worse just to protect his hit ego. And when I said that, the other counselor said I was being a jerk and that as the summer goes on, the boys might start bullying my other co-counselor if they think he's weaker than me, which I don't think is gonna happen, but I'm not sure either way. So am I the jerk for not wanting to stop doing my job the way I'm doing it, just so I don't hurt this other guy's feelings? Because right now I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know what to do. Okay, this is some insane fragile ego crap, and in my opinion, you should absolutely double down, dude. Like, this guy is seriously so insecure it's not even funny. Because if I was in your shoes and this guy literally said that to me, you know, through another coworker by the way, I would go out of my way to start doing more. We're talking carrying way more than this guy, making it very apparent that he's weaker than you. Like, literally, there's no way I would ever go the opposite direction. So no, you're not the jerk, and you are definitely not embarrassing him. He is literally doing that himself. An entitled Karen says that she won't be paying for any damage to my car after her son dents my bumper after backing out of a parking lot, saying that even if I call the police, it won't work because apparently she is the police. But karma comes back to bite her right in the rear end as I quickly realize that her husband is actually the superior officer at the police station, as this Karen literally humiliates her entire family, all because of a minor accident that easily could have been fixed. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened to me once and I've never forgotten it. I was parked outside my work, and when I returned to my car one evening, there was a note on my windshield. It read that they were very sorry and that they had accidentally dented my car when leaving their space, and with that, they left their number plate name and their phone number. Now, of course, accidents happen, so after looking at the damage, I rang the number and I politely explained to the young man that I would take the car to a garage and get a quote for repairs, no problem. He was very nice about it, but said he didn't have much money, so I told him to let me see how much it's going to be and then I would get back to him. Now, he must have then gone and told his mom about what had happened, because I get a call the very next day from an irate woman explaining to me that it's my problem and her son wouldn't be paying for any damage. Now, I explained that I'm very reasonable and I'm fair, but she talked over me and just bluntly refused, so she literally left me no choice. I told her I would be going to the police to report the situation, to which she shouted back by saying, well, good luck with that, we are the police. And then she hung up on me. So I did exactly as I said. I attended the local police station and they sat me down in a room so that they could take the details. I gave them the number plate information and I said what the mom had threatened. It was then that the two police officers looked at each other and they said, oh man, that's our superior's car. So long story short, it was the guy in charge of the station's car, and this was his wife and son. He then called me personally to apologize and even offered me payment. And I can only imagine how extremely embarrassed he must have been because his wife was acting incredibly insane. Dude, that is super embarrassing. Imagine being like, oh, we're not paying for anything, we are the police. Only to them be like, oh yeah, I kind of wish I had not said that. Because that seriously just embarrassed pretty much everybody in the family. Especially for the cop who works there, dude. Like, why would you do that? That is such a weird level of entitlement. Like, seriously. So good for you for reporting him either way, because these people absolutely deserved it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.